bagsakan system po, no, na mga nakikipag-tie up sa mga farmers so that yung mga produce nila na hindi kaagad mabenta, we offered DTI and the bagsakan system as another market for our farmers produce. Nagkaroon ng pandemic, so nagkaroon na rin ng digital bagsakan system. In the same way, on the right side, the national trade fair that we do several times a year, I think, 6 times every 2 months po yan. At saka may isang national trade fair, ginawa na ring virtual so that the exhibitors, the SMEs, will be able to market their products. Same program continues sa FAME, but less physical, more virtual. Mga market encounter programs. Repulse is again our value-adding program for MSMEs, mga business matching that will give exposure for MSMEs to eventually become exporters. Digitalization of micro SMEs so that yung nabanggit po natin kanina, we teach them. Yung iba ho, marami talaga dito sa micro, small especially, ni wala pang email, and eventually naturuan sila paano mag-email, paano gumawa ng digital storefront, tinutulungan din ng DTI ng SITEM, and para mailagay yung mga produkto nila sa mga Amazon, eBay, Shopee, Lazada, and many other major platforms. Shopee Nas, UB, Global Linker. The last part of negosyo, again for MSME development, yung wala pang mga ideas or talagang kailangan ng pang-araw-araw na hanap buhay, the really micro enterprises, dalawa po ang ating livelihood support fund. Isa po yung mga pangkabuhayan sa pagbangon at ginhawa or PPG. Para ito ho, karamihan ho dito yung victims of disasters. So either nasunugan, na bagyo, na lindol, na baha. So yan po yung mga natutulungan. Specific, we go down to the barangay level, talking to the LGUs, and actual may training bago mabigyan ng livelihood kits. So since this program started, I think in 2020 or latter part of 2019, 24,000 ang livelihood kits ang nabigay. Now, a similar program, which is the more of the regular livelihood support fund, ito naman po ay kinakalat sa lahat ng barangay na naabot ng DTI. At again, dito rin po meron na tayong 43,000 livelihood kits provided. So LGUs din po ang kausap dito para mabigyan natin dun sa talagang the poorest of the poor, yung mga paninda nila sa palengke, paninda sa kariton, sa cart, basta ho talaga may pangkabuhayan sila. These programs are really very, shall we say, reaching the bottom of the pyramid because this allows them with a 5,000 to 8,000 puhunan. At least they view this as not as a dole out, not as a wage subsidy, but really a dole out na with that 5,000 to 8,000, may pang-araw-araw silang kita out of that. That starts up their livelihood, their kabuhayan. So, ito po, tinutuluyan po itong i-monitor lahat ng nabigyan ito. In answer to mga previous queries po, I think we met the Senate mga 2 months ago, 3 months ago. We have a good average here. I don't know if USEC Bless is here. I think over 90%. Nandito pala. 97% of 2020 beneficiaries remain operational. Okay, so it's here. The Bangon Marawi is a program that we started after the war in Marawi, and we were able to distribute 50,000 livelihood kits. So this is more of a time-bound program. Wala na kaming program or budget ngayon for Marawi, but at least DTI is one agency that has fully utilized their budget for Bangon Marawi. So every time po we are able to talk to mga individuals, IDPs in Marawi, they always thank DTI dahil nakaabot po ang government, no? Dahil nakaabot talaga sa kanila itong mga livelihood kits. Now, NTF LCAC is our way to just also help out dun sa mga barangays na infested ng mga communist rebels or barangays na may mga returning rebels. At least we are able to, kahit kaunti lang, nakapagbigay tayo sa 8,000 beneficiaries. Again, part of the livelihood support fund that we have na matulungan yung mga returning rebels so somehow hindi na sila bumalik sa dating ginagawa nila, no? Fighting government. Kiyawiya, the Killed in Action, Wounded in Action is part of the Bangon Marawi and under the SB Corp, nakapaglaan din ng mga 34 million pesos loans to KIA soldiers and WIA soldiers. We also address the concerns of IP communities, indigenous people. We've reached out to 10,000, over 10,000 IPs and 141 IP organizations, lent out to 30,614 livelihood kits. On consumer protection, Mr. Chair, Your Honors, tuloy-tuloy po yung ating implementation ng Fair Trade Law, 543,000 firms monitored, mga nahuli, nakolektahan ng fine, 66 million, 78 million worth of confiscated products. Yung iba po dito are part of yung mga violations sa standards. We continue to monitor yung products for mandatory compliance sa standards. We have recently just opened, thank you to the budget given by the Senate and Congress, na nakapag at least napondohan yung testing centers, and we made use of an existing facility. We just bought some equipment at so that dati ho kasi third party ang nagte-testing. Ginagamit natin testing centers. Now BPS has their own. Although dahil sa konting capacity, kailangan pa rin ma-expand ito. Dahil sa konting capacity niya, we are still using the external as necessary. We still have the SRP system for basic necessity and prime commodities, and we were able to keep their prices steady for 2 years from 2019 up to 2021, and only last month lang tayo nag-allow ng minimal price adjustment on only 35% of the coverage. In other words, 65% hindi pa rin nag-price increase. I'm talking of the coverage ng SRP list natin. A lot of program for consumer awareness, the consumer rights, whether that's on TV, radio, webinars. So tuloy-tuloy po. And then of course, this Kwento Caravan is bringing mga manufactured products to the barangays through a Diskwento Caravan, mga discounted products. During the pandemic, our participation in IATF, aside from our persistent campaign to reopen safely the economy, more sectors para maraming trabaho makabalik, at least nabantayan din po natin yung hindi po tayo nagkaroon ng food shortage. We allowed the free flowing of goods unhampered, and we made sure na walang matitigil sa mga checkpoints. We instituted price freeze, automatic po ito lalo na nung pagka-declare ng calamity, state of calamity. We have released from time to time mga measures such as the anti-panic buying and anti-hoarding measures. We, for some time, as allowed by the Bayanihan 1, nagawa po nating at least ma-prevent yung pag-kolekta ng mga renta, which was a major problem especially last year, nung maraming saradong businesses. Or yung pag-defer lamang, hindi naman waiver, no, of the rent. Although voluntary, some of the major malls have waived yung mga rents. The last part of this is the repurposing of manufacturing. This is our program nung nag-umpisa yung pandemic, naghanap po kami ng mga kesa magsara ng mga factories, mga kumpanya, to start producing also mga coveralls, isolation gowns, masks, even ventilators, and also to start hopefully a domestic, a local industry, manufacturing industry, because when the pandemic started, wala ho tayong capacity or we were not into manufacturing these devices, except for one producer out of Bataan, but they are mainly exporting their products basically to Taiwan at that time. So at the start of the pandemic, we also talked to them to allocate some of their produce to the local market, which they did. And also after, I think, towards May, July, most especially, dito na po tayo nagkaroon ng capability na makaproduce na ng mga coveralls, gowns, mga N88 masks, and ventilators. So this is a new industry, and hopefully we've been pushing for, hopefully we can push for buy local, go local. This has been our campaign since the past 3 years. If it is locally manufactured, hopefully we can patronize yung mga local products, whether for itong during the pandemic, for health devices, as well as our idea is even for the big build projects that we have, mga locally made construction materials. So hopefully, manako, that's a big boost to local demand, to stimulating demand that will really spur the growth of and rebound of our economy. Without any ayuda, without any big budget to allocate, by just allowing more local buying, buying of local products will stimulate demand and create jobs, create more investment. So this will really rebuild the economy and bounce back the economy, lead to the bounce back of the economy. There's also a program of the President to produce and deliver 44 million locally manufactured washable cloth face mask. So for free po ito. Binibigay sa mga 4Ps at saka yung iba pang poorest of the poor communities para sila mismo may mga mask hindi na sila bumili and washable. So na-deliver na po ito. I think 44 million as committed ay na-produce and deliver. And we made use also of the SME communities, yung mga na naging beneficiary ng mga sewing machines, ginamit din po yung mga communities na yon, or yung mga barangays na ni-refer po sa atin na may mga community of sewers, sila rin po yung ginamit dito para makaproduce ito at sila rin magkaroon ng hanap buhay. Other parts during pandemic initiative, this is the last part is yung pag-issue ng mga safety seal. But the safety seal is not only issued by DTI, it's spread out to the different agencies, nagkanya-kanyang assignment as to the types of establishments. Like for service-oriented establishments, DTI po, yung mga barbershops, salons, and all that. For mga restaurants, is covered by LGUs, government agencies covered by LGUs, the mga ibang restaurants registered by DOT rin po yun. So, naka-assign ng different types of establishments, and to date, safety seals issued by DTI 3,400 at yung na-monitor natin 34,603. But yung safety seals issued by all the other agencies, we have a number there, but my recollection is about 40,000 already issued by the different agencies. The safety seal, by the way, will allow establishment to add 10 percentage point of operating capacity to what is allowed by the IATF. So if they are allowed 30%, you can add 10 points more, so 40% operating capacity for those companies, establishments with safety seal. It shows that they are following the minimum public health standard and they are given the safety seal. And this is good for levels 3 to alert levels 3 to 1. We have other programs, Mr. Chair, Your Honors, on National Employment Recovery Strategy, but this is really a consolidation of all the programs of DTI, DOLE, DOT, TESDA. Pinagsama-sama po namin para we can have a faster recovery by trying to create more jobs or empowering our kababayan para makahanap ng ibang trabaho dun sa mga na-displaced. We have tied up with the private sector group, the associations ng IT-BPM, electronics, the restaurants and hotels, construction group, para makakreate ng 1 million jobs as their commitment to help in the recovery plan of government, providing 1 million more jobs for this year and next year. Maybe I'll stop here, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, so that we can, there might be questions already. Salamat po.
Thank you, Secretary Mon. We've already acknowledged the majority leader and the minority leader. We'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the committee vice chairs. We have Senator Joel Villanueva. We have Vice Chair Amy Marcos, and we also have our Senate Trade and Entrepreneurship Chair, Senator Coco Pimentel. Good morning, Your Honors. Secmon, I just wanted to put on record some of maybe add to your remarks on the SSF because that's one of your flagship programs, di ba, Secmon?
Yes,
Yung
sir. Yes,
SSF
Mr.
shared
Chair. Yes,
services.
sir.
You mentioned that you have no SSF budget for 2021. The truth is you have a 623 million budget for 2021, Secmon, no? Baka hindi pa na-release kaya akala mo zero. But and yung sinabi niyo some years you got zero budget, that was 2015. And yung 2016 you only got 10 million. But for
Yeah.
2019 you got 300 million. 2020 you got 574 million. And for 2021 you got 623 million. So you can see it's increasing, Secmon, no, under
Yes.
this Senate. So we've been very supportive of that program. Just to put
That
that on record kasi hindi zero budget yung SSF, Secmon,
and might be
for
on another year,
2021.
Mr. Chair. I stand
Yeah,
corrected.
I put it on record that the year it cut zero budget was 2015, Secmon, no? Just to put that in context.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll
No,
give the
noted,
floor now
Mr. Chair.
to,
Salamat po.
yeah, thank you. Baka you can state the correct figures next time. We'd like to give the floor to Majority Leader Zubiri for any statements, and then we'll go to the Minority Leader, and then to, in order of login, Senators uh, Pimentel, Villanueva, and Marcos. Yeah, go ahead, Majority Leader.
Chairman, I do have just an opening statement and a couple of questions, but I'll defer muna to our minority floor leader. No worries, because I logged in late. He was earlier than me. My staff logged in early, but I came in late. So I'll defer to the next round. Second after the minority floor leader. So he can
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
Majority Leader. That's very gracious of you. We'll turn it over to the Minority Leader then. Senator Frank.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And listening to the almost 1 hour presentation of our good DTI Secretary, parang wala tayong problema sa ating bansa. You know, honestly, Mr. Secretary, when I was listening to you, I thought I was in another country and we have no problems. But having said that, galing ko pa kayo sa advertising industry before.
mean,
He has to give hope, Minority Leader. The Secretary has to give hope to our business persons.
I'm
He has to give hope.
economist ko and corporate, Mr. Strategic planning background and economics background.
Okay. Prior to joining government, where were you, Mr. Secretary?
I'm with the Food and Beverage Company, RFM Corporation,
Okay, RFM.
for 23 years.
Okay, so you were with the RFM Corporation. Congratulations. Those are one of the pioneer Filipino companies which succeeded in building a niche in our business environment, led by the Concepcions. I had the pleasure of being in the cabinet with Mr. Jose Concepcion. But anyway, having said that, there are a few points which I would like to bring out. First of all, just for the record and for you to reconfirm, how many MEs do we have in our country? As of, say, before the pandemic, 2019, ilan ho ba yung ating MSMEs?
Ang ating pong registered before the pandemic, so kung 2019, Mr. Chair, let me go back po. 2021 we already have the 2 million that I cited. 2020 was 1.7 million and 1.5 million po yung 2019. So before the pandemic, about 1.5 million. This is based on na consolidation of all the registered enterprises sa mga LGUs nationwide.
So
And,
under that data, we are saying that we had no MSMEs which closed, and in fact, the numbers increased.
Hindi po. Marami rin pong nag-close. It's just that marami rin pong nag-register. Marami po nag-close. Sa amin pong estimate ay I'll just complete the picture, Your Honor. So from 1.5, that's the total po for 2019. But practically all, 99.6% ang micro SMEs. So that's the percentage. So it's practically all anyway. So if we can compute for that, that is the MSMEs. But to your question, Your Honor, sa amin pong, based naman ito sa another survey done by DTI, fast forward na lang ho ngayon, it's now about 12% for NCR, ang close pa din, 12%. So we can compute 12% of that number for NCR lang po, no? And for balance of the country, about last number 6% ang closed. Kasi kaya magkaiba yan.
Okay. In terms of absolute figures, how many MSMEs closed?
Dito ho sa naka-record, when I say close po, based on the survey, hindi po nila sinasabi kung permanently close or temporarily close. But we can assume, Mr. Chair, Your Honors, that the lowest that this got nung bago tayo mag-ECQ was 4%. So we can say that maybe the permanently closed is a 4% number. Kaya lang po tumataas ito during ECQ.
Slowly, sir. Permanently closed 4%. Can you give us the actual numbers?
Okay, 30 seconds na po.
Sure.
Estimate po mga 76,000 po yung 4%.
76,000 small, micro, and small, medium enterprises.
Yes, sir. And then, but the numbers that we cited, that's based on 4% of, I think I used 1.9 million because that was the number that we have for this year na, that the latest, 2020. Prior to the 2 million, the latest number. No? So, but it's around, Mr. Chairman.
It's around 76,000.
76,000.
All right. Now, how many employees lost their jobs as a result of the closure of 76,000 small, micro, medium industries?
A typical number ho kasi is around maybe 3 to 5 employees. But if the good senator wants a number, I will have to refer to the survey of the labor force survey siguro, Mr. Chair. That might be a more accurate, kasi po the labor survey where we base the unemployment rate, we get the survey every month na po, no? So we can track the movement there of new employment created and also employment lost, Mr. Chair. So we can give numbers.
We don't have much time, Mr. Secretary, to give us all these details. We just want in broad strokes where we are exactly. Because as I said, after listening to you for 1 hour, para po tayo walang problema sa ating bansa. Kaya po tinatanong natin, ilan ba talaga ang nawalan ng trabaho? At kung susundan ko po ang inyong paliwanag, in 2020, during the pandemic year, when the pandemic hit us, you said there was an increase of 200,000 small, micro, medium industries. From 1.5, it became 1.7. And yet you said that 76,000 or 4% of the micro, small, and medium industries closed. So are we saying that notwithstanding the closure of
Yes.
76,000, dumami pa po yung ating SMSEs.
Yeah.
Kaya po, nahihirapan ako sa paliwanag ninyo dahil
Mm.
parang wala tayong problema kung ganyan sa inyong pinaliwanag sa nakalipas na isang oras.
Mr. Chair, tama ho kayo doon. Talagang may mga nagsara, kaya lang rin po, marami rin hong nag-register ng bago. Kaya ho talaga, it's also a bigger number. For instance po, sa e-commerce, our number last year, there is a chart that shows that from yung mga registered sa e-commerce, it started with January to March, about 1,800. The balance year for 2020 because of pandemic, naging 88,000. So doon pa lang sa e-commerce industry ay mas madami ang nagpanibagong businesses out of that. And
Ayan na nga, that confirms lang my statement at the start of my intervention that really, the way you presented it, we have no problems. The first thing that we should do in order to solve our problem is to recognize our problem. I think as a management guy, you're fully familiar with that. But my impression is that we keep on saying we have no problem because the number of registered MSME increased. That is not, hindi po yun ang nararamdaman ng ating taong bayan na nawalan ng trabaho. Hindi po yan ang nararamdaman ng ating mga kababayan na hihintay ng ayuda dahil sa pandemic. Kaya siguro mabigyan mo kami ng mas tunay na hindi naman po kayo, wala na kayo sa Concepcion Industries, yung rara attitude ni Mr. Concepcion maybe is not applicable in a public fora where you have to give the members of the committee a real picture of what is happening, because how can our chairman of our finance committee fight for your budget when you're saying everything is fine and dandy? I would like to hear what is the real score on the ground, Mr. Lopez, because if you keep on insisting na wala tayong problema, bakit natin kailangan ng budget?
Okay. Mr. Chair, Your Honor, so hindi ko po sinasabing wala tayong problema. Ano po, it's just that in fact, sa marami rin pong interview, pag tinatanong yung impact po, let's say nag-ECQ, MECQ, we cite problems also na may mga nagko-close, may mga nawawalan ng trabaho, estimated jobs that are lost. And the estimate po is around this number of about, actually it's about this 300,000 to 500,000. Basta meron din pong mga nawawalan trabaho. The problem lang po, Mr. Chair, is that the numbers can also be bigger if we count in really the unregistered, yung informal sector. Because these numbers we are citing are just the listed, I mean the formally registered. The informal sector, if meron tayong 2 million na formal sector, there's about 6 million informal sector na unregistered. Informal sector na unregistered. So that is where also some of the, I guess, the bad numbers are coming from. May problema po talaga doon sa, siyempre po yung impact ng pandemic, malagana po. And many are displaced. That's the reason why po we are pushing for mga livelihood programs at yung ibang loan programs.
Sir Secretary, if we compare the figures that you have reported insofar as the small, medium industries are concerned, enterprises are concerned, from 2019 up to 2020, you said that there are 500,000 micro, small, and medium enterprises from 1.5 billion in 2019 to 2 million in 2021. That's 500,000.
Yes, Your Honor.
It's really that there are that many micro, small, and medium industries that were established during this period?
Yes, Your Honor, yan po yung lumalabas din sa ating consolidated report ng galing sa LGU mismo,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
How many jobs were generated by these 500,000 new SMSEs?
Maybe babalikan ko po kayo doon, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, I don't have, yung dito sa 2 million po, we will have to get the actual numbers. But right
Because
now po,
I
ang
am just
basi-
following your data. 2019, you mentioned 1.5 billion. 2021 or 2020, 1.7. 2021, 2 million. So between 2019 and 2021, there were 500,000 more micro, small, and medium enterprises established. That's why the logical question is, how many jobs did this generate?
So for the jobs po, we will refer to the unemployment or the labor force data. Maybe if I can get maybe data from our staff, Mr. Chair, para ho mas accurate
Yes.
yung
So if you can give your data to our chairman of our committee, so that when he defends this budget before the floor, these are questions which I know he has no answers now, and the senators will not look at kindly your budget if you cannot give us even a true picture of where we are today. Now, insofar as our export industries are concerned, which segments suffered and as a result of the pandemic?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, yung mga bumabaho, I'll refer to sandali lang po, I'll get the data. But ang alam ko mga lumaki dito, our electronics continue to grow, or 7%, and the IT BPM service sector also continue to grow. The electronics in general, that accounts for 62% of our exports, is still growing. At yun po yung kinuwento natin na nag-rebound. As far as
Okay, yes. Now can I have just a simple answer? How many of our export industries, among our export industries, which
export,
one suffered as a result of the pandemic? How many ceased operation, and how many jobs were lost?
just a moment, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor. I'll just get the numbers by product. Yung detalye ng Okay, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, Senator Drilon, if I can go back, we're able to get the details on the data, looking at, but this is not on the 2021, but the decline from 2019 to 2020, yung naapektuhan nung first year of the pandemic. As mentioned, the electronics, the integrated circuit, still is a positive 6%, but the semiconductor devices suffered a minus 7%. We can send this particular chart, Mr. Chairman. Storage units, minus 20%. Ignition wiring, minus 19 or almost 20, minus 20%. Bananas, minus 15%. Mga static converters, printed circuits, yun po yung mga negative growth for between 2019 and 2020.
It's quite obvious to me, Mr. Secretary, I'm sorry to say this, but apparently you are not prepared to make this kind or this, you are not prepared insofar as this data is concerned to give us a real picture of our economy. And I must express my disappointment because you seem to gloss over the problems that our economy faces today. Now, given the global slump in the global economy, which industries do you think could be considered as would be having opportunities for growth, and which in our export industry would have to really face rough times, and which means loss of jobs further? Can you draw us a picture of how our export industry looks like? Because, Mr. Chairman, we are basically a service industry. And these investors who come to our shores can easily pack and go home. Now, I hope you do not count on the favorite of Senator Villanueva, our pogo industry. Hindi siguro bilang yan dito o bilang ba yan? Yung pogo industry, do you count that as in your statistics as for purposes of determining the growth areas?
Wala dito, Mr. Chair.
Wala dyan. All right. So just going back, I'm just putting which of our players or segments of the export industry do you see to be continuing to suffer as a result of the global slump, and what are our sunrise industries? In other words, when we look at the budget, we'll see where we will provide support if we know the real picture. If you just paint to us a sunny, economic picture which appears to be very, very bright, we will be asking questions. Why are we devoting funds for the export promotion when we are so good? So may we have the real score? My impression, sorry to say, Mr. Lopez, Secretary Lopez, is that you do not give us the real score insofar as industry is concerned, given the beautiful picture that you have painted. But when I ask for the specifics, unfortunately, you find it hard to give us these specifics.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
To my question, just to be specific, which export industries, which segment of the export industries do you see continuously suffering as a result of the global slump in the economy? Which industries do you think we can
Which sector? Yung lahat ng export sector.
to come here? Because the next issue I will raise is our FDIs, our foreign direct investments, has been going down like anything.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair. Actually po, yung ating export sector, okay. This year, the reason why sinasabi po natin there is a rebound, lumalaki naman po for 2021. Pero nung 2020, we really suffered a big slump. That is because a lot of manufacturing activities were stopped.
Secretary Lopez, it's to me, it's not a good data to compare us with 2020 and say we have improved a lot. We should compare how we were performing in 2019. rather than in 2020. But again, going back to my first question, which after 15 minutes you have not given me an answer, which of our export industries suffered, which of our export industry, segments of our export industry do you see continuing a downturn, and which are the sunrise industries in the export sector which we should support?
Mr. Chair, I have the information. If I can mention it now. Yung mga growth naman natin na industry are the components, devices, electronic data, the controls and instrumentation, other mineral products, bananas. I'm just looking at the compounded annual growth rates ng mga positive, no. And to the question po, alin po yung mga challenge or negative? I'll go to those with negative compounded annual growth rates. I'll start with the bigger ones. Wood crafts and furniture, coconut oil, articles of apparel, ito yung mga garments, are those with negative growth rates. Copper concentrates. So, sandali po. Excuse me. Iron and steel, sugar, minus 12% growth. Shrimp and prawns, fresh. Those are the problematic sector. Fine jewelry,
Yes.
ceramic tiles and decor, wood manufacturers. Okay, those are the, I would say, mga challenge sector, even to a certain extent. Pero minus 2% lang po yung travel goods and handbags, pineapple and pineapple products.
Yeah.
Mr.
With
Chairman,
the permission of the minority leader, may I ask a specific question related?
just before that, Mr. Chairman, with all due with your permission, it is quite obvious that the secretary has not brought with him the data on many of the essential questions, which, from where I sit, is really needed in order to see the prioritization of the budget of the DTI. It's quite obvious from the way the good secretary is answering, is that he is not prepared to answer with the data to justify on this area. May we request, and I'll give the secretary a good chance, pag-aralan niyo po yung mga tanong ko, bigay niyo sa amin yung tunay na data, hindi yung rara kind of data which will mislead us in our budget analysis. Can you, Mr. Chairman, can I request the Secretary to give us a more realistic picture so that we can study it and in the next hearing can analyze it and debate with the good Secretary on,
Yes.
on the data the more realistic data that will be
Yes, certainly,
presented to us?
minority leader. We'll do that. We'll do that. We'll ask Secmon, please comply with we'll give you a list of the transcript of the questions of the minority leader, the data he requires. But the question I'd like to ask in relation to what the minority leader said is, kami po, we're not really, every day we don't have our nose to the grind pagdating dito sa ekonomiya. But alam namin, Mr. Secretary, na yung mga industry na tinamaan, di ba? Yung transportation, yung tourism, yung retail, and associated industries like hotel and restaurants. Tinamaan lahat yan. That's why a lot of the industries you mentioned are offshoots. They're either upstream or downstream of these some of these industries. So siguro just to kind of lead you in the right direction, ano po yung plano ninyo dito sa mga industriyang ito? Dahil a lot of the dependent industries are small, and I'll add education also. Nandyan yan sa presentation ng NEDA nung DBCC eh. Sinabi nila sila yung mga hard hit. And then, I guess where the DTI comes in is you have to drill down. Sino yung mga dependent industries, Sec. Di ba? Like sa education, nakita natin, o yung mga school bus pala, tinamaan. Yung mga gumagawa ng uniforme, tinamaan. Di ba? Yung school supplies, tinamaan. Alin yung pwedeng tulungan ng ating gobyerno? I think that's the point of the minority leader, no? Tapos sa transportasyon, di ba? What can we do for them? Dito sa hotel, sa tourism, yeah, tinamaan yung mga small enterprises like those who sell to hotels, those who sell the raw materials, those who provide services like massage or other types of dependent and or associated services. So I think that's one way to look at it para holistic tayo. And then the DTI comes in to help because pagdating dito sa bigger industries, maybe you have like for educational institutions, you have the DepEd and the CHED setting the policy, but at the same time, you have to look at those dependent upon these industries. Kasi pag bumagsak yan, hindi lang yung eskwelahan ang babagsak, pati yung associated industries and businesses. I think that's probably one of the unsaid what the minority leader is driving up at Secretary, no? So I'll turn it
Yes.
back over to the minority leader.
Yes, yes, there is a very apt observation on the part of my chairman, Mr. Secretary, because when we look at your budget, we want to see whether your your programs, your activities would be addressing the industries that really would need help, as pointed out by Senator Angara. Pero mukhang hindi naman kayo handa para sabihin sa amin ngayon kung alin yung mga industriyang yan. Kaya siguro, pakisubmit mo at para po sa susunod na hearing, atin pong talakayin at tingnan kung tama ito ba ano ba ang mga activities, what are the programs, activities that we have to support, what programs you have to support from your agency in order to address the needs of the specific industries affected by the pandemic. So I would request that you give us the right picture. Huwag naman yung puro magaganda yung nangyayari sa atin, parang wala tayong problema. Medyo matagal na po kami dito sa Senado at nakikita naman natin kung ano po yung dapat tanungin ngayon. In your report to us, can you give us a report on our foreign direct investments? How do we fare insofar as FDI is concerned? How do we compare with our neighbors insofar as our FDIs are concerned? We must admit that the market capital in our environment is not that sufficient to really generate employment. So that's why we rely on foreign direct investments. But we would like to know, wala na po kami pagtatanungan kung hindi kayo lang, hindi po ba? So pakisabi naman sa amin, nasaan ba tayo? Ano bang plato natin para po magiging mas maganda po ang tingin ng mga prospective investors sa atin? Ano po ang epekto noong create na aming ipinasa? At sa pagkaalam ko po, medyo naalis sa inyong total mandate yung investment regulation napunta sa FIRB. So can you give us an honest opinion of how the create will generate direct investments, if it does? And can you tell us in your next report why are we not attracting FDIs? Because I can produce to you articles and volumes of materials which will show that we are suffering compared to other countries. Why? Why is that happening to us? So may I request a more complete data on this? But just a few more, if I can postpone my next questions to the next meeting, Mr. Chair, because I'm in due consideration of our other colleagues also wanting to ask questions. I will suspend at this point my queries on the DTI budget, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minority Leader. And as you requested, we'll schedule another meeting to give DTI a chance to give us a picture of the economy. And as a converse to what we said earlier, we're talking about those industries and businesses facing difficulty, Mr. Secretary. Tingnan din natin yung upside. There are a lot of opportunities during this pandemic, like for health-related industries, for those doing e-commerce, for I think entertainment is still a strong area. You mentioned creative industries. Siguro you can give us a picture of what's happening worldwide and what are the opportunities for our countrymen if they want to, especially those leaving school or entering the job market. Ano po yung magandang pasukan para sa kanila, or those even entering college, so then they can kind of plan their next 4 years as to where they want to, what growth industries there are and where they want to enter. Yun siguro ang hingin namin sa inyo, Sec. And now we'll turn it over to our Majority Leader if he's ready. Majority Leader, would you like to say anything? If not, we'll turn it over to our other colleagues.
No, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, first of all, no, I'm one of the departments that I really work well with is with the DTI, and I want to thank Secretary Mon Lopez for that. He's also our de facto head of the cooperatives, because we placed the cooperatives CDA, Cooperative Development Authority, under the DTI, which I think is a perfect fit. And I believe Joy and Cabo is here with us, the head of the CDAs with us as well. Chairman, and I just want to say, on the onset, just an quick opening statement. We fought for the inclusion, together with the chairman of the committee, inclusion of MSMEs in the recovery programs of the Small Business Corporation under Bayanihan 2. Kami po ni Senator Angara yan, and Senator Cayetano and the other members of the BICAM. But over the pandemic, we also received a lot of messages about Filipinos inquiring about getting some assistance in order to start small businesses. Ang dami nawalan ng trabaho at wala rin masyadong opening na pwede nilang lipatan. Kaya naiisip po ng ibang kababayan natin na baka pwede silang magtayo muna ng munting negosyo, magbenta ng lutong bahay, magsimula ng sari-sari store. Ang problema lang, kailangan nila ng tulong sa kapital. And the cooperative sector was hit also just as badly by the pandemic as any other sector. And they need help in order to continue offering vital services to their members. Our co-ops play a central role in our communities, particularly in the countryside. They are often the first point of service for many people who have limited access to banks and even government agencies. And our co-ops support our people on the grassroots level, and now we need to support our co-ops so they can continue providing the needs of our people. Cooperatives are self-help organizations, Mr. Chairman. It's like helping the Filipino help themselves. That's my motto, and we do that with the co-ops. So we want to know from the DTI, from our dear Secretary, Supermon, as I call him, and the CDA, their programs, not just to help our existing MSMEs and cooperatives, but to help those who want to start their own businesses as well. It's important that we put out a helping hand for them, Mr. Chairman, so they want to make an honest living in an impossible situation. No jobs to apply for until the economy is back in full swing, no capital to start their own businesses, and we have to have something for them to go back to. So, very insightful yung message kanina ni Minority Floor Leader, Senator Drilon. No, he really wants to see a true picture. Although I agree with the chairman, our secretary has to be a dealer of hope. We cannot be a dealer of I guess sadness. He has to be a dealer of hope. But of course, we'd like to see a true picture from the secretary, and hopefully in the next meeting he can share with us the questions of our Minority Floor Leader. So going back to siguro my first question, Mr. Chairman, very quickly, is in the Bayanihan 2, we inserted almost 10 billion pesos provision for the Small Business Corporation. Ako, Mr. Secretary, ako malaking paniwala ko sa Small Business Corporation. I really believe in that program that you have in the DTI. I think it's the best the best thing that the DTI could do to really help as many people as you can. It's not as a it's not as strict as Land Bank and DBP when you provide small business loans. I know this because when I resigned in 2011, I also applied for loans under Land Bank as a civilian for my ICE business. So I know for a fact that you have to submit so many requirements. You have to submit your business plan. You have to submit so many prerequisites before the loan is actually acted on. So for sa isang maliit na sari-sari store, yung maliit na I'd say negosyo na itatayo, yung pangsastre, pang gawa ng mga uniforms, hindi po nila kakayanan ito mga requirements na ito na isang universal bank would ask of their people. So I really truly believe in the small business corporation that's under the DTI. So my question lang is, how was it utilized? Was it fully utilized, Secretary, itong 10 billion? Na-release ba natin ito? Not like the other agencies, I'm sorry to say, nung binigay natin sila ng pondo ng Bayanihan 2, hindi nila ginastos at bumalik sa National Treasury. Galit na galit ito si Chairman Angara and our colleagues because it was, for us, sure, the money was not lost, but it was not utilized and therefore it defeats the purpose of why we funded it in the first place. Sayang yung programa. I say it's a failure of the program because hindi na umabot sa taong bayan. So my question, Secretary, if you can give us some updates, elucidate us on this issue, on the budget that we gave the 10 billion to Bayanihan 2 sa SB Corp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead. We can hear you, sir.
Secon. We can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Thank you po, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Sen. Majority Floor Leader. As to the COVID-19 assistance to restart enterprises, as reported po, we were able to fully utilize the part of the MSME because part of the 10 billion, first of all po, about 8.8 billion ang na-release, and we understand that is the budget that is already 8.08, I'm sorry, ang release. At that, ito lang yung budget for the Bayanihan 2. At out of this 8.8, this is divided into 4 billion for MSME and 4 billion for tourism. Dito po sa 4 billion under MSME in general, this is the one, both are being handled by the SB Corp. But I would say po mas mabilis. Hello. I would say that mas mabilis yung pag-utilize. In fact, fully utilize po yung ating 4 billion doon sa MSME part. In fact, atin pong nagawa na doon, the 4 billion plus the 1 billion that is coming from the fund of the SB Corp is a total fund initially of 5 billion for the micro SME part, no? At dito po we were able to lend out 5.59 billion to 34,926 applicants. So fully utilized po siya, and sobra pa ho yung napahiram natin, and kaya po sumobra yan. We were able to utilize funds from other sources like the other funds from SB Corp program, and also part of the tourism part of the 4 billion, inalaw tayo to temporarily use about 1.5 billion. So yun po yung naging source. Fully utilized po yung sa ating micro SME to the tune of 5.59 billion pesos. Under the tourism part, unfortunately, the utilization is only 225 million for 497 applicants. Ang approved loan. If I can a much later number out of the approved loans, yung travel, which is for tourism, lent out to 500 applicants approved with an amount of 226.38 million to date, Mr. Chair. So dito po sa tourism yung underutilized and only because there are really a few borrowers as of now from the tourism sector. Kaya ho yan ang performance niya sa ngayon. But we to the
Chairman, yeah, Mr. Secretary, just to be more concise and complete with the data, could you tell us how many MSMEs were actually given out of that 5+ billion that you mentioned? Maybe you can't, if you don't have the figures, more or less round figure, and if you can submit the report, how many MSMEs, in other words, how many entities availed of that 5+ billion for loans to MSMEs?
meron na, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor, Senator Majo, I will just base it on but I can give you also a copy of this. Under the regional program, hihiwalay ko na po yung travel. Kanina po nakalump yung travel for tourism dito. For the approved loans under the CARES program, which is for MSME, lent out to 33,650. The approved amount is 5.364 billion. 5.364 billion. The travel is approved application to 500 applications amounting to 226.38 million pesos. And we have also a program for OFWs called Heroes, 776 approved loans of 43.36 million pesos, Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
Chairman, yes, Chairman, Secretary, magkano yung average loan ng mga MSMEs? More or less the average loan applied for?
The average loan approved is about for the total na po, it's about 161,000.
May cap,
Average.
di ba? Yung SB Corporation, may cap yan, di ba, Sec? Magkano yung, what is the cap in the loans for MSMEs?
For medium po, mataas po yung cap eh. It can be up to I think 3 million. Maybe President Luna can give the correct number here. Because sa medium, medyo may pwedeng mas malaki.
Yes, of
But the
course.
average po natin is 161,000.
Yes, siguro what I can just request that from the SB Corps to give us a report, because I'm very proud. No, I'm really, really proud of what SB Corps is doing because of my frustrations with the banking sector, particularly government banks such as the DBP and Land Bank. Alam ni Chairman, my good friend Joy and Cabo niyan, because we had a hearing, Mr. Chairman, last week on the transport cooperatives. Nakaw, dagdag na naman requirements, hindi we have a problem because they want the transport cooperatives to modernize their fleet. The problem is they have tasked the Land Bank and the DBP to finance it. Problema naman, ang dami na lang hinihingi ng mga route plan. Yung route plan na ito, Mr. Chairman, is it has to go through the municipal and city ordinances. In other words, dadaan pa ng lahat, kailangan usapin lahat ng konsyal at yung mayor para ma-release yung route plan. Pagkalaban po yung transport, yung TODA, hindi sila bibigyan. In other words, hindi din sila malalabasan ng loan, marilisan ng loan, hindi rin nila magawa yung kanilang mandated by the DOTR as to modernize their vehicles. So napakahirap. So in the hearing, Secretary, we were supposed to have another hearing actually about it, and we were going to invite you. Is it possible that SB Corps can extend the program also to transport co-ops for their modernization? They could do it per driver basis. Kasi kung aasahan po natin itong DBP and all the Land Bank, ay baka hindi talaga matutuloy yung kanilang modernization program. So that's just the frustrations of dealing with these banks. That's why ako bilib na bilib ako sa SB Corps because it's quick, They loan it out. And may I ask lang, Secretary, before I move to another topic, what is the recovery rate? In other words, what is the payment rate of SB Corp? Maganda ba? Or nade-default ba yung loans? Or maganda naman yung payments, Secretary?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Honor, for the recovery rate, especially dito po sa CARES, hindi pa natin makita dahil ngayon pa lang tayo nag-umpisa dito and may mga grace period pa na umaandar. But for the P3, which has been a program for, I think, the past 3 or 4 years, we have over 90% repayment rate dito po sa Pondo sa Pagbabago at Pag-asenso. To your question po, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, for medium enterprises, ito po yung 15 million to 100 million asset size without land. The qualified medium enterprises can avail of up to 5 million pesos loan. So for small enterprises, ito naman yung from 3 million to 15 million size of assets. The qualified small enterprises can borrow up to 3 million pesos. And for micro enterprises, up to 600,000 pesos. Pero ito po, may mga qualifiers lang like they have to submit yung mga BIR filed financial statement so that dun po binabasa yung maximum of a company like 15% of sales. Para lang meron din tayong controls at hindi mag-overborrow ang isang company. And of course, no track record of negative credit rating. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa siya pumalso sa mga previous utang na ginawa niya. Para naman preserve yung ating pondo na mapapayaran. Yung mga walang BIR filed statement, ang maximum nilang pwedeng hiramin ay 100,000 pesos, Your Honor. To your, nasagot ko na pala yung sa repayment rate.
Yeah, yung Secretary, I really truly believe in that SB Core, your CARES program. Would it be with the chairman, hopefully in the next, of course, discussions with the chairman, we'd like to push for a budget for them. What is your budget now, Secretary, for this year for the CARES program? Meron ba tayong budget for SB Core?
Wala po for CARES. The budget for SB Corp is 1.5 billion. That is given annually to the other program, the Pondo sa Pagbabago at Pag-asenso. But SB Corp can channel some of the funds as it did in the past doon para sa CARES program. But of course, in the CARES program, it is zero interest. In other words, very small service fee.
Dito sa pagbabago program mo, Secretary, pagbabago ng Pag-asenso program, yan yung regular program ninyo sa SB Core.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, Your Honor. Diyan po yung 5.7 yung fund at ang napahiram na over 9 billion as reported earlier. So talagang napaikot na yung pondo doon, nabayaran, pinapahiram ulit. So there's a revolving fund.
So that is the difference. The pondo sa Pagbabago at Pag-asenso, yan ang regular SB Core program na may interest ng konti yan. Diba? But it's a small interest, right? It's like, magkano yung interest niyan?
Ranging from 1.5 to 2% per month, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So yan yung kanyang what you call this regular program. Yung CARES, yung pinasok natin CARES for Bayanihan 2, yun yung interest free. Parang tulong natin during the pandemic.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yun po yung zero interest. No collateral pa din, just like the P3 program. Kaya lang zero interest. Pero may service fee po siya na yun yung in effect yung at least yung pinaka management fee. That is just I think about, it depends, parang ranging from 2 to 4% a year.
Yes. Siguro, Chairman, if you allow us, maybe we can move at the proper time to increase the budget for the CARES program because hirap na hirap talaga yung MSMEs na yun. You can ask even the co-op sector. The co-ops are lending already to the MSMEs as well. And they can only do so much because magkano lang naman ang pondo ng Cooperative.
I agree, Majority Leader. At the proper time, let's discuss. And basta kaya ni SecMon ni disperse. Up to how much can you disperse dyan sa SB Corp sa CARES program, SecMon? Kasi the idea of the Majority Leader is yung mga transport co-ops and transport groups, which is one of the hardest hit sectors, hindi nahihiram dun sa conventional banking channels kasi nga mabusisi, maraming hinihingi, very impractical. How much can you absorb?
Ngayon po kasi ginawa na ring online, so I think with the new system, we will be able to absorb more. SB Corp can confirm, but what I remember is about up to 1,000 application per month. I think, sorry, per week.
In peso terms, Secretary, in peso terms. Maybe you get back to us since
Ipo.
di naman tayo nagmamadali dito. But it is the majority leader raised a very urgent and important concern, which
There's-
the
there's-
minority leader also mentioned. Ano bang plano natin sa mga tinamaan, di ba? So I think this is one very important channel. I think maybe Senator Marcos will agree. Will ask her. Pero ibigay niyo lang sa amin yung absorptive capacity niyo so we want it to be as easy as possible, obviously, no? Vice Chair Marcos, you're raising your hand, ma'am.
Maybe I'll
Yeah,
just wrap up
wanted to
na lang kasi.
interject that in order to help the MSMEs, which seem seem nowhere present in this business as usual budget, perhaps we should give the money not to SB Corp, which has its own limitations and myriad issues, but directly na to the CARES program, which right now nga zero yung budget niya.
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah,
had in mind,
Chairman.
para zero interest.
Oo,
So,
kasi mas maganda yung disbursement doon, dire-diretso eh.
Yes,
Magulo yung
yes.
SB Corp nagkakaproblema.
I think that's
But
what the
actually,
majority
SB
leader was driving at.
Yes. Pero SB
Yeah, we'll turn it
Corp,
over back to the majority leader.
Yeah, Ma'am Amy, the SB Core is actually, I mean, the CARES program is under the SB Core. So they're still the one distributing the funds. But
Yes, that's
anyway,
right. But may iba-ibang window kasi. Iswak na natin dun sa CARES para tapos na.
Yep,
Oh,
yep.
so maybe Secretary Mon, I want to help you with your budget there. We want to make, and the chairman would like to help you and our members of the committee. No-brainer yan kasi this 2022 budget really is the budget that will help pump prime the economy, will try to get us out of this rut because of this pandemic. So we're looking at all avenues on how we can help these industries. So in the proper time, Chairman, we're meeting naman, we'll be meeting soon. We can discuss how much we can download or realign to SB Corp's CARES program. And at the same time, maybe you can craft, just have your people in SB Corp craft a possible program for the transport ops para ma-modernize nila yung kanilang mga PUVs, matulungan natin. Anyway, they're cooperatives, Secretary, so mas madali kasi may entity sila eh. Hindi naman, nandyan naman si Sir Joy, nandyan naman si Chairman Joy, habulin niya yung mga co-ops na to kasi under sa kanya. So hindi naman tatakbo. Literally kasi transport sila, baka tumakbo. Pero hindi naman tatakbo yung mga yan. So just those two, Secretary, for the CARES program, we want to again fund for 2022. And at the same time, if your people in SB Corp can make a program to help our transport co-ops.
Yes.
So yun lang ang hingi ko sa iyo, tulong sa department, and we will work out the numbers to help you. And maybe my final message is to the CDA, kay Chairman Joy. Chairman Joy,
Hindi, kukunin.
thank you, Secretary Supermon. Salamat ha. Hindi kita haharang sa iba. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
May ano lang, just para lang may feedback kaagad sa inyo, Your Honors and Majo and Mr. Chairman and to the other honorables. May feedback lang ho kaagad na pagdating sa absorptive capacity, given the online capability, it can absorb about 500, process and disperse about 500 million pesos per month. So para ho may idea na tayo as to the absorptive capacity. And also, just recently lang po, as to your strong interest to help the transport sector, the SB Corporation and the Transport Organization, ACTUO, signed a Memorandum of Agreement on loan program for truckers. The DTI, the DTI and the Supply Chain and Logistics Group facilitated a project with the SB Corp providing loan assistance to truckers affected by the COVID-19. After several discussions, a MOA was signed. And that ito po will provide zero interest para sa CARES, loanable amount ranging from 200,000 to 5 million. The funds will be sourced from CARES. So ang malaking tulong ho yung sinasabi ninyo na if we can add the funding for CARES to help specifically on programs like this, definitely we will be able to disperse it to the intended sectors.
Kasama naman dyan yung informal sector na binanggit nyo, no? Yung mga nagbebenta lang ng fishball o taho, kasama yan?
Kasama po, pero papatak siya doon sa 100,000 maximum.
Of course, of course. In terms of amount, obviously they won't need that much, but pero kasama sila, inclusive siya.
Opo. Basta existing business for
And
1
you will
year.
not ask kasi marami dito wala namang financial statement o balance sheet. Hindi mo naman sila hihinga ng ganon.
Wala po.
Like for the street vendor, what are you going to ask from them?
Usually yung kanilang basta meron lang silang tinatawag na parking fee or yung ginukuha nila sa mga barangay
To
na
prove that they're in business, to prove that they're doing
they are
business.
selling in those areas.
Yes.
Oo,
Yeah,
ganun
okay.
lang po.
Yun
Actually
lang, ganun kasimple.
Opo, ganun lang po kasimple doon sa mga unregistered.
Good.
At
Very good.
pwede po sila doon.
Secretary, meron na kayo nailabas na maliliit, di ba? Tag 20,000, tag 50,000.
Yes po.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
Mr.
will
Chair.
help a lot of people kasi these people cannot pay their bills eh. Maaring kumikita sila ng konti pero it's not enough to pay their bills. Kumbaga yung sa kuryente, sa gano'n, di ba?
Tama po. Actually ang nangyayari din po dun sa mga sobrang liit, minsan hindi na sila dito sa loan, dun, especially kung less than 10,000, dun sila sa livelihood support package. Doon po sila pwede ipila, kaya kung yan po ang may budget, mas marami po tayong matutulungan because this is really the bottom of the pyramid.
I'll sit down with you also, Secretary, mag-usap tayo, mag-zoom tayo on which programs that is. Because I think this is actually what is replacing the 5-6 chairman. Yung SB Corps was built up na to replace
Yes.
yung 5-6. So malaking tulong talaga to. At saka nationwide ito, Secmon, di ba? Luzon,
Yes,
Visayas, Mindanao.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
So sa Ilocos Norte, merong SB Corps dyan. Meron. Sa
nationwide.
Bukidnon, meron din.
Na nakakapagpahiram po nationwide. Pati
good.
BARM, pati sa Muslim.
Pag bukid nun, wala nang requirements. So, Secretary, dapat pa gano'n.
Wala naman ako
May picture lang ni Senator Mix, may calling card lang ni Senator Mix.
Never
I'm just
ako
kidding.
nagharas. Alam mo, tanong mo kay Sec, never ako nagharas sa kanya ng pondo for that sa Bukidnon.
I'm just joking,
No,
Majority Leader.
No, I know, I'm just kidding. I know you are. My dear Chairman. I'm just talking about accessibility because I did come out with an ad once about our initiatives for MSMEs. Sinabi ko nga na meron tayong loan na ibinigay na 10 from the Bayanihan to na 10 billion. Pero yung mga feedback sa mga comments ko dun sa pag-post ko ng ad, wala nang pera. Saan kami maghirap? Pupunta namin, wala nang pondo. So, ubus na daw yung pondo. Kaya napasama pa yata yung in-announce ko na may pondo sa SB Corp. Kaya si Chairman na bahala nun para malagyan natin ng pondo ulit sa 2022. Pero what is the process? Just quickly so that our colleagues will know. What is the process, Chairman? They go to the DTI office of the province? Is that where the SB Corp office is located?
I'll invite President Luna para mas specific quickly yung process, Pres Luna or Lito of SB Corp. Kasi they can at saka online po ito, Senator Mix. There is also an online application pero dun sa talagang walang access sa online.
Yung mga fishball, ganun.
Yung mga maliit talaga, they can
Saan yung presidente mo, boss? Wala yata.
si President Luna. Yan, Lito, please.
Good morning,
Mabilis
Mr.
lang.
Chair. To provide
Morning.
a quick response to the query of the committee. Fully online po yung ating loan application system under the CARES program. So, kung yun naman pong mga borrowers or applicants na wala pong access sa internet, pwede po silang pumunta sa mga negosyo centers at sa mga opisina po na meron din pong staff ng SB Corp, and we will assist them to complete the online loan application.
So all negosyo centers, kasi marami kayo, nationwide kayo eh. Even Bukidnon, I know there's one there. So all negosyo centers, puntahan nila, may tao po kayo. They can process.
Meron pong mga DTI personnel, and upon coordination na rin po kay sa Good Secretary, they allowed us to tap assistance from the DTI personnel in the negosyo centers to likewise assist yung mga walk-in po na applicants na are having difficulties in terms of accessing an online loan application. So, alam naman po natin na hindi po lahat ay ganun ka husay or ganun ka familiar sa loan application na online. So, binibigyan po yan ng assistance ng atin pong mga colleagues din po sa DTI Kasi po ang SB po ay maliit lang po na organization, wala po kaming presence sa lahat ng
Maganda. Siguro,
Apa.
Sir Lito, no, I have to waste my time is up. I have other colleagues.
Okay po.
Siguro instruct mo na lang secretary na lahat ng negosyo centers, of course, they're not SB personnel secretary, but they can help in the online application. Kasi I'm sure sari-sari store owner or senior citizen selling fish balls in the corner, wala naman pong access sa mga ganyang online. So, pwedeng pumunta sa tanggapan ng negosyo center, upo sila doon, at yung tao ninyo po ang naglalagay sa online. That would be the best para
Yes.
hindi po sila matakot.
Tama po.
And, so siguro, Sir Lito, ganun na lang. Maybe we
Apa.
can sit down again on the side.
Sige.
Not necessarily during the budget deliberations. We can sit down on the side with the secretary. Because I feel this is the only way we can help our people directly. And you've already helped 33,000 MSMEs. So we thank you for that. But sana we can target 100,000 MSMEs, no, for whatever it's worth para mabuhay ulit itong ating mga kababayan na informal sector. So yun lamang po, Secretary. Ang akin lang, Chairman, my last kay CDA Chairman, you have a big role to play. He's the new chairman, Chairman Sani is the new chairman of the CDA. There's a new strengthened CDA.
Congrats.
And he's our partner in development together with the DTI. I think these two agencies are the key, no, to unlocking limitless possibilities of increasing or strengthening our economy next year. So you have my support, Chairman, and Chairman Joy. Tulungan mo lang kami siguro, mag-usap na kayo ni Secretary on yung proposal dun sa modernization program. Baka pondohan po namin ni Chairman yan, Chairman Sani, through SB Corps as part of the CARES program or another program for transport. You can call it whatever, another name. So the sooner the better, Chairman Joy, together with Secretary, so that means Chairman Sani, and I will help him defend this in the budget, definitely. We'll be able to release, hopefully we can locate funding to increase the budget for CARES. So, salamat, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary. Congratulations, and keep up the good work. Alam mo naman, Chairman, with my last statement, the least controversial department who works very hard, no nonsense, magandang programa. Kita mo na nga nung pinopromote niya kanina yung DTI, parang nasa Amerika, parang nasa Europe tayo. Ganda Ganda ng mga programs, no? Parang walang pandemya. Yeah, they're good thinkers. They have good plans. They have good programs. We just need to back it up, no? And hopefully, maganda yung performance nitong iba't ibang programa nila at makatulong yan sa taong bayan. So thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you,
Salamat po, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you
Senator.
to our Majority Leader for his support to the department. Sa bagong chairman ng CDA, don't forget the secret, yung picture ni Majority Leader. Lagay ka sa opisina mo, tapos lagay ka rin sa bulsa mo. I'm just kidding.
Supported tayo ng CDA. Dapat, alam mo ganito, Chairman Sani. I asked the CDA and the cooperative sector, I can put this on record, to support cooperative champions. It's useless for them to support only me. Because why? I cannot do everything and I'm only one voice. So I said, tulungan natin si Joel Villanueva. Alam ni Chairman yan. Sa lahat ng salita ko. Si Sherwin Gatchalian, yung tinatawag natin na co-op block na pag tumakbo at manalo sa susunod na kongreso, protektahin po namin yung interest ng kooperatiba. That's what we did for Sunny. That's what we did for Sunny, for Nancy, for Grace.
Thank
We
you.
came up with the sugar block, and then we
That's
came
right.
up with
That's
co-op
right.
block. So,
Very powerful sector.
Joy, para ito yung mga kaalyado ko para tulungan natin na mabuhayin muli ang sigla ng itong mga sektor na ito.
Mr. Chairman
Thank
and
you.
Senator Subiri, even without the guidance of the good majority floor leader, we already know who are the senators who have the heart for the cooperatives, and we will
So may picture na kayo, Chairman. May
And,
kalendaryo na kayo.
and including your picture, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just kidding. Just trying to. We've been
picture
going on
with the
2
white
hours,
hair.
so I'm trying to keep things light. But seriously speaking,
Thank
Mr. Secretary, tama si Majority Leader. Let's make it easy. I wanted to add, baka we can put an express lane or with less requirements for loans below a certain amount. Di ba sa grocery, kapag 8 items or less, di ba walang pila, maiksi ang pila. may express lane, baka pwedeng ganon. Pag nag-a-apply sa loans, let's say it's 20,000 pababa, di ba? Huwag na natin bigyan ng napakarami. Baka the cost of enforcement and administration is even higher than the loan itself, di ba? Let's also be wise about how we use our government resources.
Yes,
Yun
Mr.
lang.
Chair.
Ano.
Yes,
So I'll
sir.
turn it over now to the other senators. Is our trade chair, Senate trade chair, Senator Coco Pimentel online? Because he's the first to log in. I know he's also a big supporter of the DTI. Parang wala na siya. So I think it's our Vice Chair, Senator Joel, is also very big in supporting our MSMEs.
Thank
Pero
you,
kahit
Mr.
walang
Chair.
picture, sumusuporta ho si San Joel.
Yeah. Basta may picture ni Senator Zubiri, okay na po ako.
Okay na.
Oo. Ako yung assistant ni Senator Zubiri, Deputy Majority Leader, assistant. Ang ibig sabihin lang yan, laging kasama yan hanggang hating gabi. Hindi makauwi. Last night, I came home about 10 in the evening. But kidding aside, Mr. Chairman, thank you for this opportunity. Good morning to our friends from DTI, especially to our good secretary who is a fellow Tomasian. Thank you for being with us this morning. I'd like to start by saying that I am in full support of the Department of Trade and Industry, and I think that it is the perhaps one, if not the most important agency or department ng pamahalaan that is needed, badly needed right now, especially when you talk about creating jobs and the importance of giving livelihood, pagkakakitaan ng ating mga kababayan. May mga ilang tanong din po ako gaya nung binanggit kanina ni Minority Floor Leader, and I would also like to get a copy of what he was asking for, and I'll try to pound on it later on so that we'll be very quick. First things first, I also would like to acknowledge yung efforts po ng Department of Trade and Industry in its response to, in the fight against COVID-19. Yung full support po nila, especially to our local manufacturers. For example, from CONWEP, yung Confederation of Wearable Exporters of the Philippines, they made it possible for them to repurpose their manufacturing facilities to produce personal protective equipment, face masks, etc. Yung from zero production, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, Secretary, from zero production of PPE, we can now produce about 57 million yata yung capacity, no? To produce 57 million face masks and 3 million coveralls per month. Yung repurposing program led to, I have some data here, $35 million in new investments, and we were able to save 7,450 jobs. That's very commendable, no? Despite the fact that some of, in our hearings in the Committee on Blue Ribbon, yung isang local manufacturing association, they lost about 25,000 jobs in 2020 alone. So importante talaga na buhayin at tulungan yung ating mga local manufacturers. So my first question, Mr. Secretary, my good friend, I have been very supportive of, in fact, I'm one of, if not the first one to ask to have a strategic employment strategy, no? And now there's NERS, and thank God for that. This representation, together with the Chairman Angara, our good senator from Baler, who is also the principal author of Philippine Digital Workforce Competitiveness Act, at tayo po ang nag-defend ngayon yan, nasa plenaryo na po yan. Yung goal po niyan is to ensure that the availability of digitally skilled workers in light of the fourth industrial revolution. So we wanted to find out, Secretary, yung first question, what portion of the projected, kanina nga sinabi nyo 1 million yung target, no, dun sa nurse, but in a lot of articles I've been reading, the target is to, parang initial is 220,000 jobs to be generated under this National Employment Recovery Strategy. Gusto ko lang malaman, are we focusing and looking at this particular industry? Because kanina binabanggit ni Minority Floor Leader, ano ba yung mga industry? Hindi na ako sumingit because I have some facts here and data. But I think itong digital Workforce Competitiveness Act will help a lot. And gusto nating malaman ano yung what accounts for digital or tech-related work na ating tinitignan dito, Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your Honor, Senator Joel, salamat sa lahat ng inyong suporta. Dito po talaga, well, digital workforce, as mentioned po kanina sa presentation, the digital sector, pati na rin itong mga 4 IR is one sector identified that we really want to develop more people on. Kasi ito rin ho yung hinahanap ng mga maraming investors. We have a lot of programs that we cited in the presentation. Isa po dito ay yung mga like the Pivot Embrace Technology. We have also the Skills Framework, Philippine Skills Framework program that will adopt a more comprehensive approach mula po sa education system ng grade school, high school, up to the higher education, tertiary, and also linking it with what is required by the industry. The digital workforce would also be needed as we promote first yung part of the e-commerce roadmap, where it's all talking about developing skills and a lot of training programs for that. And also for the AI roadmap that we are now pushing for more data scientists. Right now, we have a graduate every year of about close to 800,000. And I think 30 to 40% are in the science and technology field, engineering and math, yung STEM, tinatawag na STEM. You know this very well, Your Honor. So ito po yung talagang tinutulak natin, more training, moving into like hopefully the Senate can also work on yung mga encouraging more apprenticeship, internship program that will entice more siguro alignment ng mga jobs to what is produced by the education sector, including VOCTEC, and what is needed by the industry. Even TESDA, Mr. Chair, has allocated a lot of scholarship in this field to promote the 4IR digital workforce. So this is definitely one major program that we are giving a push for, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Secretary. But let me also point out when you talk about skills framework, no, part yan nung bill na namin ni Senator Angara that we are pushing and it's already on the floor. I'm sponsoring it. Yung Tulong Trabaho Act is already a law, also supported by our good chair, Senator Angara, Senator Migs, and last Congress po yan. May funding po yan last year ng 1 point something billion. This year, another 1 point something billion. And I am aware also that DTI sits as chair of the board of TESDA. But unfortunately, we have yet to hear the implementation of this Tulong Trabaho law. This will help a lot kasi, for example, yung Connected Women, no, we coordinated with them. I'm sure you've heard about them. Dun po sa Zamboanga sila. They're helping mga nanay as encoders, etc. Nasa digital field. And kagabi, I was talking to the, I forgot her name, sorry, but they were saying, ang funding na binibigay sa kanila, 500 pesos per trainer per month, nakukunin pa doon sa Zamboanga City na ang layo. Ang point ko lang, Secretary, no, I think both of us, you and I would agree that training is very important. We need to ensure that Filipino workers are ready to adjust to the changing job needs brought about by the fourth industrial revolution. Kanina, you were talking about AI, etc. So, baka ho po pwedeng malaman din, binanggit nyo kanina, 800,000 yung gumagraduate every year. Is that correct? Ano yung target natin? Ano yung paano natin to namo-monitor, Secretary?
Mr. Chair, I'll get back to you on the numbers, but we have our undersecretary who might have that number on that target for the workers. But ang masasabi ko lang, we have a lot of programs for this. But we continue to attract more of the participants dito po sa ating mga programa. Example po, we have recognized that, as mentioned kanina, a more precise number, about 200,000 in the engineering, information technology, and medical related field. And we recognize that there are a lot of emerging jobs, robotics engineers, cybersecurity specialists, data scientists, full stack engineer, JavaScript developer, cloud engineer. So these are programs that we continue to, but I cannot give you right now po the target numbers, but I would like to call on our undersecretary if they have exact numbers on this one. Thank
It's
you.
okay, Secretary. Maybe we can just wait for the submission of these documents. Just to have a as policymakers, we wanted to find out how we could be of help, what directions we need to take, and how to prioritize it. I think it is important to note that even if we agree to that yung training, yung ensuring that our workers are ready to adjust, would also mean that we have a reliable training program. So yun yung isang gusto nating tutukan, that they'll be competent, no, dito sa mga jobs available in the new normal. Now, still on the issue of innovation and digital jobs, tinitingnan ko itong Global Innovation Index, ranking the Philippines 51st out of 132 economies, no? We were down one spot kasi 50 tayo last 2020 in terms of innovation input and outputs, no? I'd like to find out from the Department of Trade and Industry, Secretary, what we are doing now, and in this particular budget, meron ba tayong item dyan that would improve and address the weaknesses outlined in the Global Innovation Index report, which includes, I'm sure very interested dito ang ating majority leader, kasi included po dyan yung ease of doing business, included po dyan yung ease of getting credit and lack of available venture capital funding. And kanina binanggit ni Chairman, and I agree with him, yung paggagawa nitong mga express lanes, kung maliit lamang, kasi kung mahahaba yung pila, mahahaba yung mga requirements, nada-drive away yung ating mga kababayan na gustong magnegosyo, gustong pumasok at maging entrepreneur. So Secretary, yun po gusto ko lang humalaman, and meron hubang pondo diyan, enough yung pondo para punan natin itong mga kailangan nating tahaking polisiya at programa.
Thank you. Thank you po, Your Honor. Actually po, when it comes to the innovation program, I think kailangan ho talaga masuportahan. Right now, we're not getting really the support or the budget needed. It is a law, for example, in the Innovation Act, that there is a fund. If I remember, I think 1 billion a year, but we're not getting that funding. For
You know,
that,
every year I point that out. Every year I point that out. You're not getting it still. Even at this coming budget, I mean 2022, right?
Wala po, Your Honor. So yun po isang malaking pangailangan that will really allow us to support companies to innovate, to at least help them in a way support at like getting the latest equipment for IR, Internet of Things type of equipment. Kahit hindi na yung robotics muna, but at least yung mga integrated functioning equipment, yung nakakonect sa computer ang operations ng mga makina, as simple as that. We've just started with our venture funding system, and with no funding again on this, but we are getting funds from the NDC, for example, para lang maumpisahan na po itong venture fund, which is also stated in the other law, the startup innovative startup program, or na wala ring fund sa venture fund, but the fund is coming from the NDC. So other programs po is of course on the getting credit, obviously that isa po ito sa we are facilitating the ease of doing business. We mentioned a couple of programs earlier with the help of ARTA in trying to shorten the process in many things in the transaction. We are faithfully implementing the 20-day principle in the Ease of Doing Business Act. That's that the Senate passed. And of course, a lot of training din po on the program. So ang mga napopondohan po dito sa current NEP, at least nasama dito, at least yung some of the training programs kasi integral po sa mga programa ng DTI. But when you talk of the actual funding support for the innovation, that can help us elevate, let's say, many manufacturing companies, yun po talaga wala pang support doon. And but we are attending to the other factors, as you mentioned, like getting credit and the ease of doing business, where we can.
And Secretary, if we get that funding, would you say that we'll be able to improve our spot in this Global Innovation Index?
Yes, Your Honor, definitely. We'll be able to address the weaknesses in that GII report, Mr. Chair.
Just to put on record, no, Mr. Chairman, kasi in terms of startup ecosystem, the Philippines ranked 52nd out of 100 countries surveyed compared to our Southeast Asian neighbor. Singapore is 10th, Malaysia is 40th, Indonesia 45th, Thailand is 50. Lahat po sila ahead sa atin, while Vietnam ranks 59. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, baka pwede Secretary makahingi nung request nyo po, no, tungkol dito, because I think it's very important, because really that's the way to go right now. With this new normal, I think we should look into this digital jobs that we're talking about. Very close to my heart ito with Senator Angara. Si Senator Aimee, nung nasa TESDA ko, I remember I would call her up and talk about, you know, all these digital careers programs, and I still remember those days, and I appreciate it, because that's what we did when we were in TESDA. We put in I think $500 million program to develop our animation industry, our IT BPM sector, etc. Now, Secretary, I wanted to wind up, but again, let me point out the importance of this National Employment Recovery Strategy. Now, there are several existing programs under the Department of Trade and Industry that were identified to be part of the if I'm not mistaken, 1.14 trillion, because there's Executive Order 140, di ba? Yung 1.14 trillion budget, ito po ay galing sa iba't ibang ahensya ng ating pamahalaan, kasama ang DTI, DOLE, etc. Now, what was the rationale for this identified programs to be included in the National Employment Recovery Strategy? Kasi tinitingnan ko dito, yung scholarships, tulong trabaho, Kapatid Mentor Me program, DTI, Pangkabuhayan at Pagbangon, several programs ng Philippine Trade Training Center, yung COVID assistance to restart enterprises, yung CARES, yung shared services facilities, no? Ano yung rationale po nito to be included in that? And another thing, you are chairing the National Employment Recovery Strategy. Is that correct, Secretary?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, yes, we are pushing for that. I am chairing it. Ang co-chair ko po, TESDA, Secretary Lapena at saka Secretary Bello of DOLE. The rationale po, Your Honor, is really to consolidate all the efforts ng iba't ibang ahensya that will help bring back jobs. And as you rightly pointed out po, the TESDA has a big role in terms of skills training. In our case, also we also contribute to the training, especially on creating more micro enterprises, more micro, small, medium, that will create jobs as well. Investment promotion is there, including policy reforms that we are all doing on the CREATE, and you are also discussing the PSA and the RTL, the retail trade liberalization. Thank you for passing it, at least at the, I understand the BICAM. These are efforts that will really encourage more investments and create more jobs moving forward. Lahat ito, pag pinagsama-sama po, ay will help bring back and accelerate yung job recovery natin. Which to the question po earlier of the minority floor leader, Nandun naman po sa labor force survey po natin na nakita naman natin na meron ngang impact din talaga sa base sa mga unemployment figures that came out, no, na malaki pa rin yung
Oo,
figures.
Secretary. Alam niyo, Secretary, and our chair, our colleagues know about this. Talagang trabaho po yung tinatrabaho natin dito sa Senado. Yan po yung ating tinututukan dito sa Senado. At with this particular program, National Employment Recovery Strategy, we wanted to make sure that this will succeed, Secretary. No? Ang target po ba is 1 million jobs or 220,000 jobs as earlier mentioned?
Actually, it will come out to be more than 200,000, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. Yung 1 million is just a special project with the industry associations, which is an extra effort. Ang sabi lang po nila, masunod lang yung mga reforms that we are trying to do. Let's say, for example, sa IT BPM, right now they're able to sustain and in fact grow their hiring processes, their expansion, because we allowed the work from home arrangement, yung mga alternative work arrangement. If we remove that arrangement,
Hindi mo yung
obviously,
nagpasa nung batas ng work from home law.
telecommuting. Salamat po, Senator. Yeah,
Tayo
so,
author at sponsor niya.
yeah, so malaking bagay ho yun kasi this is really one arrangement that has allowed them to really expand even during this pandemic. So they're saying we continue to support them with the favorable environment and they will be able to create jobs. Of course, as pointed out also earlier by the chairman, there are other sectors really affected, and but for them, they like the transportation, the hotel, the tourism. To the question also of the chairman earlier and the minority floor leader, these are really the sectors hard hit. I wasn't able to mention them, Your Honor, because I was focusing on the export manufacturing earlier na kung saan na decline. But really the sectors affected are what we see around, the tourism, transport, marami ho talagang tinamaan.
Actually, I'll go to that in a while, no? Last two questions na lang siguro, Secretary. But just to be clear, the target of nurse for next year, with respect to the budget that we are deliberating upon for next year, is there a concrete plan or target? Is it 1 million? At least we would find out. And just for the record, Secretary, if we can get an answer from
Sige.
that.
Maybe so the target po so far what we have is the 200,000 committed plus the 1 million also committed with the other industry associations.
That's
So
1.2 million jobs.
1.2 million jobs, Your Honor.
New jobs. Bagong trabaho po ito. Or kasama na po dito yung i-revive na trabaho.
Yeah,
na
kasama po yung i-revive, yung nawala ng trabaho na basta maibalik natin yung sector. By the way, isa pa hong naalala ko na that things that we have to do to revive is really by simply reopening the economy. This is what we're trying to do, the safe reopening. Aside from all these policy and program reforms we're doing, yung the ability to reopen habang bumababa ang COVID cases. With that, we will be able to revive many of the jobs. Kasama po dyan.
Secretary, kasama din dito, if I recall, yung pag-attract ng new industries to invest here in the Philippines. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. Kasama po dyan.
Secretary, I'm very interested about this nurse program. In fact, I am ready to walk the extra mile and help out in any way we can. But can you also give us or submit to the committee a roadmap of what we wanted to accomplish? You made mention, now it's clear, 1.2 million jobs will be created from nurse. We all love it, and we are excited to help out, no, with this project. Another thing is part of the EO 140 is the assistance to 1.4 million displaced workers. Is that correct? I think I saw that in the executive order. No, So that's
Yes.
correct, right? That's
Yeah,
also
you're
part of it. So having said that, Secretary, baka ho po pwede tayong magkaroon ng mechanism to monitor itong National Employment Recovery Strategy. Like for instance, in this first quarter of the year, ilan yung ine-expect natin? If it's 1.2 million jobs in 12 months, you divide it by 4 to get a quarterly targets, etc. And then we look into it, no? Tapos sasamahan ko po kayo na nakulitin yung mga ahensya na kulang ang training kaya hindi nila ma-hire dahil hindi competent, etc. So I think that's a very good strategy that going forward ay magawa po natin. Right now we have in June, and I'd like to state this for the record, in June 2021, ang unemployment is 7.7%. But in July, it went down to 6.9%. And that's about 3.1 million unemployed. In June of 2021, ang underemployment rate natin is 14.2%. Ngayong July, lumaki at lumobo to 20.9%. That's about 8.7 million underemployed. So I think these figures are very important moving forward. At tapos binabangga natin dun sa National Employment Recovery Strategy natin, nasusukat natin if we're successful, if we're doing well, if we're not doing well, what else can we do? And another example that looking at the July 2021, ito kanina nasa akin, hindi na ako sumingit kanina dun sa discussions po ninyo ni Minority Floor Leader, yung labor force survey, jobs that increased during the pandemic from June 20 to July 2021 are administrative and support services. That's 462,000 jobs. Doon po sa construction, nag-increase din ng 411,000. And professional, scientific, and technical activities, 187,000. Maganda ho itong balita na to ng labor force survey, no? But the question now is, what portion of the target na binabanggit natin at pinag-uusapan, Secretary, what portion of the target projected jobs? Right now, we have 1.2 million projected jobs that will be coming from nurse. Pero what portion will be coming from these subsectors? Are we looking at it para nakikita natin, may potential ito. Kumbaga sa basketball, round robin pa lang, nakita na namin, dumang, parang magandang pang-depensa to. Malakas sumupalpal to. So things like that, Secretary. In short, what is your roadmap to recover the labor sector and to generate new employment per industry, per region, and are these jobs for IR ready? So yun po yung question natin.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Your Honor. So this is, we will give you the details. So we will submit the details on this one. What I have kasi are the sectors that are contributing. As mentioned earlier po, the IT BPM, the construction, the hotels and restaurant group are even committed because they're looking forward to more reopening in the months ahead as we bring down the COVID cases. And of course, the electronics, yung mga the big sectors that have that were also really challenged, no, in itong pandemic, Your Honor. So we will be submitting all this as requested, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Secretary, you agree with this representation, the suggestion of this representation to have a roadmap, mechanisms to monitor, etc. Perhaps for example, yung mga nasa rural areas, paano natin silang matatouch, maka-access dito sa program ng nurse?
Apo, yes, we agree, Your Honor. Actually, dyan ho, lalo na sa mga rural areas, dyan ho malaki matutulong ng TESDA. Actually, yung mga lalo na the upskilling and reskilling that are needed. So we'll be giving, putting forward yung more numbers on this one. Para
Because again, Secretary, you sit as the head of the board of TESDA. Kayo yung parang attached agency ng DTI ang TESDA. I think it's important na ma-monitor po natin itong mga trainees, the community-based training programs. When I was there, I started the special training employment program which is based in the communities. Pagkatapos mo i-train, for example, ng welding, bibigyan mo ng welding machine. And they're still continuing that program. Unfortunately, parang mabagal yung utilization and the implementation. Medyo there's so much room for improvement. No, we have seen all these articles in the newspapers, etc. But we're doing our best to monitor. Sana, Secretary, magtulungan ho tayo kasi perennially yung problem is utilization, yung implementation, ang tagal. At yung huli naman na balitaan ko yung sa procurement, napakatagal, parang 2 taon na. Hindi pa natapos na yung training nung welding, natapos na yung training nung baking, hindi na nabigay yung oven, hindi na nabigay yung welding machine. So I hope you look into it. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. Thank you, Secretary. Again, I'm here to support our DTI family, especially our good friend, Secretary Mon Lopez. And we look forward to working with you, Secretary, in the coming days. Salamat po.
Salamat
Thank
po.
you to our Vice
And Mr.
Chairperson, Senator Joel. We gave you time for 2 rounds. And
Sorry.
we did not stop you because you were on a roll, Your Honor, and making very many good points. That's why. So as a courtesy to our other vice chair, we'll also give her time for 2 rounds if she wishes. Thank you for all the good points, and thank you for mentioning
Thank you,
our
Mr.
bills.
Chairman. But please feel free to caution us and sorry about that.
No.
Thank you.
Don't worry,
It's,
gutom na si Chairman.
You were
kumakain
clearly in
na.
your zone. You were, to use a basketball metaphor, you were in the zone. So we
In
didn't
the
want to stop
zone,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Uh,
flow.
We'll turn it over
Okay.
now to our other vice chair, and she can take 2 rounds if she wishes. This is Vice Chair Aimee, who's also
It's
a
already
big
a
supporter of
violation.
our entrepreneurs, especially sa creative side. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I see you're hungry. I think the secretary must be starving. At the
Please
risk
feel
of
free to eat, to all our resource persons. We'll understand if you want to turn off your monitors and munch. Please feel free. Very informal rules po tayo rito. With your indulgence, Vice Chairs Marcos and Villanueva.
Thank you very much. My first question has to do with inflation. The DTI, through its secretary, has repeatedly stated that it has ensured the unimpeded movement of essential goods such as food, gasoline, medicines, PPE. What exactly were the measures undertaken by the DTI for the said unimpeded movement?
Mr. Chair, this is basically making representation in the IATF that all our policies that pertains to mobility of cargoes will be unhampered as a policy muna, and then making sure sa implementation there will be also no issue on this one. So for example, even if we set this as a policy, during the ECQ, especially the early days of ECQ last year,
That's
there are
right.
a lot of confusion at the checkpoints level sa implementation. So we are part also of the command center operation that basically closely coordinate with those on the ground to make sure na yung mga cargos hindi pipigilan sa mga checkpoints, and also to a certain extent some LGUs impose their own respective checkpoints at the barangay level na nakakaapekto sa supply of goods. So we were really on the ground even in the implementation. So from policy, IATF, and up to the implementation, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. We're aware that you were an advocate in the IATF, and despite initial glitches and numerous complaints, kahit papano, na-align na rin sa wakas yung IATF rules, DOH, LTO, LTFRB, at yung mga LGU na iba-iba yung interpretation ng iba't ibang alert level, ng mga ECQ. Kaya't okay naman. Ang problema, sir, itong inflation, kasi sa Economic Affairs Committee na ako ang umuupo, we have reached levels of 4.9% inflation, minsan 5 to 6%. And in the food inflation sector, ang taas-taas na ng pinalo ng mga essential goods katulad ng bigas, ng prutas, ng vegetables, fish, chicken, and of course pork. As a result, we were awaiting repeatedly the action of DTI. Ano na ba nangyari dyan sa price stabilization natin?
Thank you, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, dito po sa nangyaring inflation, malaki ho talaga yung mga fluctuation or yung movement, especially ho sa those that are bought in the wet market, yung palengke. So mainly agricultural products that have that is so much affected by yung supply and demand situation. Kaya ho talaga hindi yung mapigilan minsan yung fluctuate doon. Kasi especially when
I've seen some photos, Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary, of the DTI inspecting wet markets. Pero parang parati kayong too late na hero kasi tumaas na yung presyo, wala naman napaparusahan.
Kaya tama po, kaya ho amin mong ina-advocate talaga in the like in the economic development cluster. For example, all these policy measures that will allow for greater supply. Una-una po, the principle po of increasing supply, and this is being handled very well by the Department of Agriculture, ay yung pagdating ho sa
I beg to
pag-increase.
disagree po. I understand that you share the responsibility po with the DA. Kaya lang, dun sa presyo at saka sa consumer protection angle, talagang dapat yung DTI ang nangunguna, di ba?
Sa Consumer Price Act po kasi, we only assist the DA pagdating ho sa agriculture products. Doon ho kami sa price monitoring, but agriculture products are watched over by the DA. Kami po sa manufactured products, that's why yung mga delata, instant noodle, gatas, etc. Sa groceries,
Asan na rin yun
meron po
So-
kaming SRP system sa manufactured products, which
Have you
has
actually punished people or withheld their licenses? Has anyone been sanctioned under the SRP? Kasi kung minsan nagiging katatawanan na yan sa grocery at saka sa palengke, pinagtatawanan na namin yung SRP kasi andyan nakapaskel yung SRP. Sa ilalim, lahat ng tindera, doble pa yung presyo na sinisingil. Ba't ganun?
sa amin po nasa sanction po namin in a way. Ganito po ang nangyayari. Pagdating mo sa grocery supermarkets, 100% compliance kasi yon. Pag hindi sumunod sa SRP, hindi ho kinikerry ng grocery supermarket mismo. Kaya they follow. Dun sa manufactured products po.
Yung mga 24
Pero-
hours, yung mga mini-mart, ang tataas ng presyo. Wala ba kayong jurisdiction doon? Yun pa naman ang tinatakbuhan natin karamihan at sila yung marami. Lalo na sa urban areas, hindi na uso yung sari-sari. Talagang naging 24 hours na. Ang tataas, nagtitriple yung presyo. Asan ang DTI?
Yun po kasi yung mga sari-sari store, the tertiary accounts and
Hindi po, yung 24 hour, yung mga
yung
mini-mart.
convenience, kasama rin po, tertiary account po ang treatment
Okay.
doon. Convenience stores, hindi po siya covered nung ating SRP. Ang SRP po is covering the groceries and supermarkets, which is really the main source. Kasi
I
po
see.
convenience aspect po ang presyo, ang prices and availability is very much attached to its convenience factor. That's why it's really higher than the SRP. It's really the trade
Yes.
system.
So, Mr.
Yun,
Secretary, are you saying that the convenience stores are imposing prices unregulated?
yes po.
Because it
Yes.
appears so. Every time I go, I'm in shock over the increases.
Ano sila, hindi ho sila cover ng SRP kasi first karamihan diyan naka-aircon pa, available sa mga malalayong lugar o kanto-kanto at closer to residential. Para na rin po siyang sari-sari store. Kaya lang air condition kaya and they operate 24/7 kaya talagang mas mataas ang operating cost. So they are not
Pero kung
subject
minsan
to the
hindi naman
SRP.
commensurate, hindi naman sapat yung dinadagdag nila halimbawa aircon, saka 24-hour service, dun sa dagdag nila na halos doble o triple yung laki ng presyo. So, you're saying it's unregulated po, what should be done?
Ang sa amin po, principle po kasi ng DTI is at least we make these goods available at low price and giving them options. And if they really want to buy it at a low price, they will have to buy at the groceries and supermarkets, which follow the SRP. So,
But night workers, including our frontline workers, BPOs who now constitute over 1 million of our millennials and younger people, are all obliged to buy from these convenience stores because of their working hours? We cannot simply allow these convenience stores to go unregulated, hindi po ba?
Maybe siguro to the point of yung for specific market, we can probably have specific stores for them if the good senator is referring to that. But as a general rule, yung convenience store, para bang kadiwa, no? We can probably have those kinds of stores para sa mga health workers, night workers. But for us to regulate the convenience, it's like regulating the sari-sari stores. Hindi po talaga sila covered kasi yung convenience factor. Ang advice po
Hindi
natin is
siguro
for
yung
them to
sinasabi ko,
apply.
Secretary, we will never grapple with these cycles of inflation, particularly with regard to food inflation. Kapag hati-hati at turuan tayo ng turuan, DA says it's DTI, pagbagsak sa presyo. DTI says when it's agricultural products, they are forsworn from intervening. In the meantime, everybody raises up their hands when it's convenience stores, when the reality is those who shop at convenience stores aren't all wealthy. Many of them are the poor as well.
Yes, tama po yun. Kaya really kung gusto natin talagang makabili ng mura, we will have to go to the groceries and supermarkets and prepare for all your needs sa baunin natin. Kasi doon talaga we commit to the SRP compliance. Iba talagang market system sa convenience store, unfortunately. Iba level. Para talaga siyang sari-sari store. They are there for the convenience na malapit sila sa residential. But there are, of course, residential na malapit sa grocery store. It's just that hindi sila 24/7. May extra, as mentioned, may extra cost ang operating for 24/7.
Yes. Mr. Secretary and Chairman, ang nangyayari kasi marami nagrereklamo na sa consumer protection group sa atin na yung DTI daw has now become unflatteringly very much the cuckolded husband. They're always the last to know about the price increases, which is why we cannot get a handle on inflation. And as we know very well, food inflation is all about poverty and hunger because it constitutes 60% of the spend in the lower brackets. So sana magawa natin na paraan kasi mukhang out of control to and nobody seems to be really watching. The price stabilization effort seems to be weak. Nabawasan pa yung budget. So mukhang yung consumer protection is taking a backseat to all our other efforts. Another question po. Yes,
If I may, Your Honor, para makatulong siguro din dito sa price stabilization, para kami hindi naman sa monitoring lang, kung hindi yung if we can do something on policies, tulad nung pinag-uusapan ninyo na retail trade law that can encourage more competition more retailers for this, hopefully can bring down the pricing even at the convenience store level. Competition can help in that. And also, when it comes to the supply situation, that has a big impact pagdating sa public market. We all know very well, kahit anong presyong ilagay natin dyan, kung walang supply, ang taas po talaga nung nagiging presyo. So, it is really important that we assure good supply. So, either po we increase the production, which is ginagawa ng DA on the agriculture products. The other thing is we allow importation at certain times na while promoting production, we also have a policy that will allow importation na hindi kailangan ng mga import clearances. For example, even on fish, yung sa ngayon na tumataas yung fish, it could have been avoided kung nag-allow tayo ng importation ng mga ibang fish products na para mapanatiling mura especially during off-season or close season let's say ang presyo ng isda. So this kasama-sama po ito mga policy approach po natin.
Nag-open season na po sa Palawan at sa iba pang matitinding dagat natin. Subalit tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang importation. Kaya yung ibang mangingisda at magsasaka, palta na daw yung pangalan Department of Agriculture, pati yung trade, kundi Department of Importation na lang daw. Kasi parati na lang yan ang sagot natin sa bawat suliranin. So anyway po, yung fish importation, we're already importing fish naman ho, di ba? Katutak na cream dory ang nai-stock up dyan sa customs di ba?
Meron po, kaya lang it will need mga import clearances that minsan medyo tumatagal doon. So if we are to prepare for the close season, dapat sana may automatic certificate of necessity of importation, CNI, na ini-issue sana for times of close season. Pero pag open season, I agree po, we prioritize yung locally produced.
Yes. Another question po has to do with what Senator Joel inquired about earlier. You have a small agency in DTI called the Philippine Trade Training Center for training of MSMEs. It has a very meager budget. It's only 74 million. Yet, the COA flagged, and it has flagged this office repeatedly because it keeps transferring funds to PSDBM for office supplies. So 29% or 30% of the funds are not liquidated. And then there are unliquidated fund transfers also to PITC, amounting to 14 million or 15 million. Maliliit lang itong halagang to. Kaya lang, maliit rin itong opisina'n to. Bakit palipat-lipat yung pondo nila from PSDBM to PITC? Ano ba yun?
Well, I can answer in general, but I will ask our undersecretary maybe to help explain this better. But because ang nangyayari naman po, just like other agencies, they focus on their primary function or mandate, like in PTTC, providing training. So they make use of other agencies para bumili para sa kanila.
But Secretary, they transferred 96.64% of their entire budget. I don't think they're performing any mandate kapag halos 100% pinalipat-lipat na lang.
Okay.
I think that this is essential for our MSMEs. Halos bawat senador pinag-usapan MSMEs. Ito yung inatasan na magte-training ng MSMEs. Ano ba nangyari dyan?
Siguro, well, that's a very detailed finding. Let me just get the details of this, Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
Hindi nga po kasi yung COA audit report ninyo, hindi nga siya audit consolidated management letter. I don't actually understand what this is, but in any case, it's an incomplete finding. So this is not really very detailed, and it's been carrying on for several years. So if the secretary or the other DTI officers are not familiar with this finding about the PTTC, kahit ibigay na lang ninyo yung information kasi nakaka-alarma siya palipat-lipat yung pera.
Well, certainly, we will give the details po for this. But so far, even from our people, ang sinasabi po nila, they're only... But maybe better to refer na to the COA report that you're referring to, Your Honor.
Can we get an explanation in writing, Secretary Mon, as from the agency concerned and who the responsible officer in charge, the head of the agency, and explanation as to the utilization of those funds?
Yes.
I thought that when it came to PITC, hindi na practice yon because of the exposés of the past few years, Mr. Secretary.
Opo, actually dito sa PTTC, actually sinasabi nila dito from the PITC, first bidding failed, the project ongoing procurement. From the PTTC representative, the amount is 2.4 million pesos. But we will look into the report of being referred to by the Honorable Senator Marcos para we can answer in writing the details of this of the transaction.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you very much. There's several transactions. It's not only the PITC. Naglipat rin yung PTTC sa PSDBM for office supplies. Konti lang naman siya, pero it's already 29.23% of fund transferred were not liquidated. So, bakit ganun yung PTTC? Paikot-ikot yung pera niya. Yun yung tanong dun eh. Kasi there are several unliquidated fund transfers as well during the prior years. So let's just sort this out because it's very poor practice, particularly for an institution that is pivotal for the MSME survival today.
Yes, Your Honor. We'll submit, Your Honor.
Thank you. The DTI also has a project called Program Beneficiaries Development Component for Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Project Beneficiaries worth 121.194 million. What exactly is this project? I'm an advocate of condoning this land reform loans, as my chairman knows. But I would like to know what this project addresses. I don't seem to have encountered it on the ground.
Okay, these are projects that actually capacitate yung mga agrarian reform beneficiaries. Essentially similar po sa other programs natin on giving them, teaching them livelihood. So kasama po ang training, kasama ang product development, kasama ang helping them on the marketing. It's the DTI way of helping the micro SMEs. It's just that this is addressing the agrarian reform beneficiaries. So
we know that rural development is already an overlapping function of the DAR, the DA, and now it turns out also the DTI. Maybe have the list also of these programs. Where are they being undertaken and to the tune of how much and exactly what's being done? Because there doesn't seem to be very much awareness either in DAR or in the DA about these programs.
Yes, we will submit and this list, Sir Chair.
In
Alam
your
niyo-
locally funded and foreign assisted projects, you have at the bottom of the list something called Rural Agro Enterprise Partnership, yung RAPID,
Aha.
which is foreign assisted. Pareho lang ba yan? Kasi
Iba po
parang
yung
ganun-ganun din eh, yung mga rural assistance.
iba po yung sa RAPID dun sa agrarian reform, but similar programs po kasi pagdating po sa DTI, it's really about training, livelihood, product development, mentoring, and also bringing their products to the market. Yun
In
yung
this
mga
case
assistance.
po,
Training
it's,
also SMEs.
Sorry. Yes, in this case, dito sa Rural Agro Enterprise, it's been almost 1 billion annually. So perhaps we can get more details kung anong nagagawa niyan.
Opo, this is a program that has a project recently launched, foreign assisted, that has a specific
Recently po?
targets. We will submit the details po on the program.
Bago lang po.
Sorry po.
Secretary, is this a new project? You said it was recent because parang I've seen it before.
2017 to 2022. I'm sorry po. Sorry. 2019 to 2025. Yung 2017-2022 is the Philippine Development Plan. In other words, in-align po itong RAPID dito po sa PDP. But the project is ongoing 2019 to 2025. It has assistance to micro enterprises, SMEs. Naka-identify po 500 cooperatives, 21 networks of negotiation centers, 207.
Yes, I understand po, but maybe know where this is occurring. The reason is, despite these projects for both agrarian reform beneficiaries as well as this rural agro enterprise rapid, the reality is our labor sector is touting 2 million jobs lost in the rural sector. So in what way is the DTI assuaging that problem? Dahil mukhang may mga programa naman kayo, pero parang effect, ba't ganito?
Hindi po, actually the programs are helping in their own respective implementation and sectors. Because the unemployment is prevalent almost everywhere. That's affected nga po ng mga sectors affected by
Yes,
the
of course.
pandemic.
We're not blaming you for the rampant unemployment and underemployment in the rural sectors. We're just concerned that there should be some re-engineering perhaps of these rural projects that you have, given the dire situation in rural unemployment.
Opo. And thank you for that. Another clarification, ito hong Rapid as a program na i-implement po from the agriculture side to the processing side, and tama ho sa rural. But we'll just submit the details of this. But this is definitely a program for the rural development, from agriculture production to the processing of the products.
Yes, while we're at it na lang, if we can get more clarity on the locally funded and foreign assisted projects, yung MSME, Go Local, and development plans and so on. Dahil kasi, wala po ako nakikitang bago. It's very much business as usual and very pre-COVID instead of post-COVID. What we are very concerned about are the measures that are being adopted by the DTI to help MSMEs adapt to the new normal? Are there new sustainable or green initiatives that we are helping them with, as their digitization and automation? Are we helping them with that? Hindi naman ganong mahal yun. Wala rin akong nakikita sa aling sulok ng budget ninyo tungkol sa health and wellness para sa mga empleyado ng MSME na talagang hindi naman nila kaya yon. So I suppose this is what we're looking for, no? Yung tulong ng DTI to MSMEs to adapt to the new normal. I'm seeing very, very old projects. Some are expanded, some are reduced, but in every case, they are old projects. So naghahanap po kami ng bagong project.
Okay. At yung actually ho, yung mga digitalization has been part, especially since this year, as a reaction to the 2020 start of pandemic. Numpisahan na ho talaga to. So it's really a continuation, but really expansion and doing more of it, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
Yes, but sana nandyan sa budget ninyo para at least nagiginhawaan kami, kasi all we see is the report that 969 MSMEs were endowed with online market spaces. Halos wala naman yun, di ba? Considering the universe of online sellers and the mass of students, housewives, and newly unemployed who are determined to get online but getting no help whatsoever from DTI. Siguro that's what we're really looking for. What does the new normal in trade and industry look like, as it should be spearheaded by your department? Yun lang po.
Okay. Sige po, we'll be putting all those targets to bring clarity to this.
Yes, I think a lot of our small stores, for example, they're looking for money to retrofit for cross ventilation, water supply para makapag-hand washing. Wala namang mention ng bagong ganun eh. Wala pang new normal talaga sa tindahan, sa restaurant, sa tourism hubs. They're really the ones who need that. Thank you po.
Actually, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Chair, actually, these are all integrated naman dun sa ating microfinancing program in general, na that will be used as working capital for improvements such as this. And also the inclusion, let's say, of the renovation to mga COVID-affected projects. For example, the renovation of hotels, making them addressing yung mga COVID, mga ano bang tawag doon, yung improving the safety.
Are there no possibilities of wage subsidies, for example, or other cash for work options? Kasi takot na takot sila mag-loan, di ba? Kaya yan ang problema ng SB Corp, hindi makapag-utang sa mga tourism outfits because there's no prospect or immediate prospect of traffic and tourism. So, syempre, ayaw naman nila mangutang. Wala ba tayong magawang iba na sana i-subsidize man lang o magbigay ng wage assistance, and so on.
Actually po, what I was saying is that yung mga COVID-related projects, yung pag-improve ng, let's say, safety protocol sa mga hotels, mga renovation, they're even part of the BOI yung assistance, pwedeng bigyan ng incentives. Or ito nga, mga working capital loans from SB Corp that can be used for mga renovation to address the pandemic, improve the safety protocol. These are the projects that are also being supported, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. So they are here in the financing. Hindi lang siya naka-specify isa-isa, but they are all eligible for funding, training. We're doing a lot, digitalization, health management, etc. These are all also being done, Mr. Chair. Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The hour is very late, and I think Secretary Mon is aware of our concerns at this point. So we will await the submission of more detailed responses. Thank you.
Thank you.
very much. Some very good points there by our Vice Chair, Senator Jaime. And thank you, Secmon. As promised earlier, as requested by Senator Julan, we'll have another hearing. We'll coordinate with the DTI. Pero yung one effort one possible thing is maybe to help a lot of the restaurants go alfresco or outdoor dining, Secmon. I think that's what a lot of other countries have done.
Yes.
They've I don't know how they did it, but it seems that a lot of them are encroaching on the street already in some countries, no? So baka pwede naman kung wala namang in areas where there is no vehicle traffic, maybe there could be some coordination between the national and the local government to that will not cost anything on the part of the government, no? It's just
Tama po.
kumbaga laway lang siya pero natulungan mo yung restaurant, in-expand mo yung capacity niya, di ba? So, yun ang reklamo nila kahit puno sila.
That's
I don't
right.
know how you can do it for in the case of the transport sectors where there are the demands on them to decrease their capacity, no? But definitely for restaurants, that's already being done in many other countries.
Yes,
Mr. Chair, Mr.
yes,
Chair,
Your
if I
Honor.
may share our experience in Ilocos Norte along
Please,
those
please,
lines.
please do.
It's really to make space and to create time. It sounds crazy, but we do make space by simply opening up the roads, even if they're very heavily traveled roads. There are moments when they can be closed as for example after work in the evening, so that they are playgrounds for children as well, and the entire family can enjoy the restaurant Alfresco, and also during the weekend, so that it becomes a picnic ground for many restaurants to share. So these are, as you said, cost-free efforts. The other thing is to create time. And we are very much against curfews, which I think are a bizarre reaction to the pandemic. Because lalo nag-i-stampede yung mga nanay sa grocery pag tatlong araw, pag tatlong oras lang ang shopping obviously. So hinahayaan natin, pati yung mga restaurant, pati yung mga bar, na magbukas ng mas matagal para hindi nagsisiksikan during the open hours. So I think we have to change our mindset about many of these things, and lockdowns really have to be rethought carefully. Thank you, po.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you for sharing very good and practical ideas from the Ilocos experience. Yeah, Secretary, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we totally agree and support what was mentioned by Senator Jaime. On the curfew, definitely we're also an advocate of removing or pushing back as late as possible the curfew. And to the point earlier, frankly, itong like the tourism sector, that's the restaurant sector, ang kailangan ho talaga dito is the policy to reopen more. Yun lang ho talaga yung pumipigil na dahil sarado sila, either natatakot humiram, natatakot magbukas at tuloy mataas yung unemployment. They are one sector na
Can-
most affected, tourism and restaurant. To the
And
Alfresco.
may I add before I forget, Sec, sorry to interrupt, but
Po.
they're also asking that they be given some leeway to provide some regulation for vaccinated diners, di ba?
Right,
Parang
right.
baka pwedeng i-relax yung percentage requirements or yung capacity requirements kapag
30%.
vaccinated naman sila in a in a enclosed area. Maybe that's something you can look into and
Yes,
discuss
yes.
dun sa mga meetings ninyo, Secmon,
Yes,
please.
yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, yung 30% occupancy hindi na gumalaw eh. Parang nakatakda na sa pato eh. Pambira talaga eh.
Yeah,
The
yeah. We can
other
slowly tweak it. We tweak. I think that's what other countries do. They just tweak. They don't make drastic adjustment. They don't go from 30 to 100, but somehow they try to live with the virus by tweaking every now and then. No?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, yung sa vaccinated, sinama na po natin for the first time, kahit maraming nagdi-disagree noon, ay napasama na din na i-consider ang vaccinated sa indoor, lalo na ngayong alert level 4. So I think this is the start of an acceptance na pag vaccinated must may privileges. So we're allowing it dito sa indoor. But I agree to your point na kung pwedeng imbis na 10% lang po, actually, sa vaccinated sa level 4, talagang hindi ho talaga mabubuhay ang mga SME dyan ay kung pwedeng maakyat po sa 20 o 30% na vaccinated, at least for level 4. Kasi sa level 3, yung pababa, ay allowed na yung 30% kahit hindi vaccinated. Both vaccinated and unvaccinated.
Siguro, Mr. Secretary, dapat good example yung gobyerno. Mag 24 hours open para hindi nag-i-stampede. Imbis na iniiklian yung oras. Gawing 24 hours, ano ba naman, kuryente lang yan. At saka isang empleyado lang naman yan. Huwag natin pinapahirapan yung tao. Hirap na eh.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Yes,
if I
Vice Chair Joel. Go ahead,
just
sir.
a very short observation, just to join the party, Mr. Chairman. Naiingit po ako sa inyo.
You started
First
the
of
party. You started the party.
no, first of all, I agree with your statements, Mr. Chairman, yung binanggit ni Senator Amy, yung pagtaas ng percentage, yung binabanggit ni Secmon. But I have a more radical idea on doing this, addressing this COVID-19 pandemic. For quite a long time, nakita naman natin yung IATF, wala, it's not working. Bakit hindi natin isipin na tanggalin na lang natin tong IATF, bigay natin sa LGUs, they know better. They know what's yung binabanggit ni Senator Amy, it's working for Ilocos, and I hope that it's also an option to look into this option na empower the LGUs. They know better and they're doing better yung mga LGUs than the national government. I just hope that it's also an option. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. That's quite radical.
Kaya in short, abolish na natin yung IATF.
Alam ni Secmon, maraming debate dyan sa loob ng IATF. Kaya we appreciate him arguing also on behalf of our establishment, Sec. Yeah, so I think there are no more...
Senator Angara, I would like to commend Secmon. No? Alam natin yung mga discussions na nangyayari doon, and we feel him and we support him. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure he appreciates that.
Information.
Yeah, go ahead,
Mr.
Vice Chair Marcos.
Updated
Go ahead.
information, yung PITC, nagsoli na nung 5 point something billion doon sa 11 billion na nakapark doon. Parang nagsoli na siya. Updated ba kami?
Opo,
Let's
we
ask
will...
Secretary Mon. Yeah.
Senator, I mean, we will submit to all the members of the committee the questions on the PITC. Actually, even if we look at from the report na lumabas I think last year pa to, or early this year, from the 32 billion, just to report na fast forward actually malaki na na ibaba nito. I think may remaining na lang na ongoing na mga 3.5 billion. The rest are either natapos na yung procurement, yung iba po, to your point, marami rin ni-return na sa treasury. In fact, I will try to just narrate, I think, inano ko po dito Ah, 30 seconds lang po. Ito. From the 33 billion fund, as of December 31, the 31.5 billion, may mga funds return po dito. Then from the 31 billion, as of July 31, funds returned 6 billion. Interest income returned, remitted 9.9 million. Liquidated payments to suppliers 3.2 billion. Bumaba na ho sa 22 billion as of July 31. Then, this 22 billion, may mga projects completed, 1 billion, ongoing implementation, ibig sabihin, contracted na po yung projects that may notice to proceed, that's 14.6 billion. May issuance of notice of award na 163 million. Ongoing post-qualification, 1.35. Ongoing procurement, 3.2.
Sige po, hingi na lang kami ng listahan kasi siguradong tatanungin niya ng minority. Tapos
Oo.
may nag-text po sa akin yung grocery daw, hindi totoo yung suggested retail price. Kasi sa sardinas, 555, 1550 ang inyong presyo. Ang tunay na bentahan, 23 to 25. Kaya para daw DTI, lagi kayong huli sa balita, wag naman.
Hindi naman po. Basta ho may complaint.
Sa SRP
Oo.
Sa grocery to hindi sa 7-Eleven.
Okay po. Pagka ho may ganyan hong tip, pupuntahan ho namin, hindi ho pwede talaga yan.
Dami ko niyan yung mga Ilocano ang hilig
Sige ho. We appreciate kung mabigay ho sa amin yung tindahan. Okay, submit po, Your Honor, Your Chairman, yung binasa ko sa PITC para ma-account po talaga lahat na malaki yung progress, and thanks to the Senate for raising this issue para ma-address talaga ng PITC.
Thank you. Any other questions from our members? Wala na. So I will just schedule another hearing, and my advice, friendly advice, Secmon, is maybe if you can give some readings to the senators before that hearing para they see that yun, napaghandaan niyo po yung mga tanong, yung concerns sa mga tinamaan ng ekonomiya, yung mga jobs lost, what is the government doing to help our MSMEs and industries who have suffered losses. No? But nonetheless, we appreciate everything the DTI and its attached agencies have done for our kababayans. No? So we'll be in touch as to the schedules, and we thank you again, Secmon and the DTI family. We thank our vice chairs, Senator Aimee, Senator Joel, and the minority leader, the majority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel, for gracing this hearing. So thank you, Your Honors, to the chair of the CDA, newly installed, to the other resource persons. Salamat po. Stay safe always. I will see you again. Thank you very much, Secmon.
Salamat po, Your Chairman, sa Your Honors. Thank you very much po sa inyo lahat, sa DTI family.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Angara, and Senators. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac.
Kain
Salamat.
na.
Ingat po.
Sige po. Stay safe.
See you, Aimee.
At dahil sa video na ipinakita po ninyo, nung tanungin po ninyo at ni Senator Richard Gordon, so Crizel Mago, napaamin nga po siya na totoo yun at siniswindle nila ang gobyerno. Ang tanong ngayon, Nasa na po si Crizel Mago? Hindi pa rin po ba siya makontakt?
Hindi pa siya kumokontact ulit sa amin sa Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, pero patuloy yung aming pag-reach out sa kanya, pati sa pamamagitan ninyo sa media at sa social media syempre. Pero ang alam namin ay in communication pa rin siya sa ibang mga grupo at individual. So, ligtas pa rin siya hanggang sa puntong ito. Pero talagang gusto kong ipaalam sa kanya na concerned din ako sa kanyang kaligtasan. At bukas ang opisina ko. Ganon din ang Blue Ribbon Committee. Gusto kong masiguro ang kanyang kaligtasan. At sana po, lalo na sa parating na hearing ulit sa Huwebes, maging bukas siya pa rin at mas bukas na makipagtulungan na sa Senado, buuin ang totoong kwento sa kwentong Farmally na ito.
At bukod po doon sa warehouse staff, kay Crizel Mago ay isang ginoong Lincoln Ong.
Yes.
Na taga Farmally ay meron ding aaminin tungkol daw sa anomalya sa Farmally. Ilarawan po ninyo just what would Lincoln Ong in terms of his his coverage in the company? How important is his testimony?
Very important, Karen. Una, siya yung unang nagbasag sa kasinungalingan ni Michael Yang na wala na siyang kinalaman sa Farmally after he introduced them to his suppliers. Kasi si Lincoln Ong ang unang nagsabing guarantor nila si Michael Yang. Mabigat yon sa kahit anong kumpanya, lalo na ganong kaliit at kabago at undercapitalized.
And loan the money too.
And loan the money na pinatotohanan din ni Farmally Pharmaceuticals President CEO Huang Tzuyen. So ngayon, ang pwede pang idagdag at dapat idagdag ni Lincoln Ong bago maubusan ng PC sa kanya ang mga kasama kong senador, ay magkano ba ang pinautang ni Michael Yang sa kanila? Kasi hanggang sa ngayon, ayaw niyang aminin. Pero obviously, malaki yun. Kasi nakapag-procure ng malalaking supplies ang Farmally para ibenta sa gobyerno natin sa napakalalaking halaga din. So yun yung isang importanteng pwede pa niyang idagdag na piraso sa puzzle na ito, Karen.
Now, Senator, did the warehouse staff, your witness, sinabi po ba niya just how much face masks and face shields they've tampered with to change the expiry dates?
That's a good question, Karen. Hindi pa niya nadedetalye sa amin kung ano yung magnitude ng supply na iyon. Pero apparently, iba't ibang produkto ng Farmally, iba't ibang warehouse. So itong particular na warehouse ay dedicated sa face shields. At kapag nabuo na din namin yung mga dokumento mula sa Bureau of Customs at mula sa PSDBM, magkakaroon na kami ng educated guess unless patotohanan na rin ni Ms. Mago at ni Lincoln Ong kung ilan yung mga circa 2020 face shields na pinalitan nila ng certificate na kunyaring 2021.
And have we actually discovered if they were actually all delivered? How many were delivered? Which hospitals got them? And why were they delivered to hospitals directly instead of the DOH actually doing proper inventory on those face shields?
That's another good question. Also because urgently concerned kami na ito kasing revelations ng witness namin ay napaka-recent nakaraang buwang Agosto hanggang kasalukuyang September. So imagine, baka yung mga bulok na produktong iyon ng Farmally ay kumakalat pa rin sa paligid natin. So we need to find out if those are still in the process of being delivered para mapatigil, hindi mapadala sa ating mga healthcare workers ang mga substandard na mga di umanong protective equipment. And we must remember, Karen, na nung I think 2 hearings ago, sinabi din ni Minority Leader Sen Frank na mayroong at least 3 pang malalaking halagang kontrata apparently this year, circa 2021, between PSDBM and Farmally na wala pa nga, lampas pa sa mga kontratang na red flag ng COA sa kanilang audit report. For all we know, itong mga fake certificate, substandard face shields ay bahagi sa isa sa tatlong kontratang iyon and should be covered, I hope, by yung panawagan ko, Karen, na tumigil na ang gobyerno na makipagtransaksyon dito sa Pharmaly na ito.
And what's interesting, let's also bring back our viewers, is the company Pharmaly, which we all know had just 625,000 peso capital, is towards the delivery is they were buying supplies from Tiger Phil Marketing, which then was buying supplies from another company called Green Trends.
Yes.
So there's so much profiting.
Yes.
All the companies they're buying from instead of going to the supplier directly or them being the supplier.
Yes, Pharmaly and probably those two others by their name alone, marketing, hindi naman sila manufacturers. Sila ay middlemen, sila ay traders, suppliers lamang. Kumbaga, walang value added sa buong prosesong ito. If government had wanted to procure from Taiwan, sinabi na rin ito ni Sen Frank dati, pwede na lang sanang mag G2G, government to government procurement. And then here on the domestic side, Karen, ang daming Pilipinong manufacturers na laan mag-provide. And these are better capitalized. Ito yung may track records, mas mura ang ino-offer nila. Pero iniwan sila sa ere ng PSDBM since last year at sa halip, pinaboran itong Pharmaly to the detriment of the Filipino people, pati yung ating healthcare workers. So talagang unforgivable. Kahit sa business practices, hindi papasa.
And just for the record, itong Green Trends that actually sold the mask at 18 pesos and Tiger Phil Marketing are Filipino companies. Filipino
Based here in the Philippines. Yes.
Because from 18 pesos as a base price, Pharmaly bought the face mask at 27.72. So you have an increase of somewhat like 9 to 10 pesos along the way.
For what? Oo, nawala naman silang idinagdag na value. It just changed hands. Di naman nila in-enhance yung produkto. Wala namang silang in-input na research and development. Diyan, wala. Ang laway lang ang kapital mula sa simula at laway lang ang idinagdag every time there was a change of hands. So anong ibinayad ng PSDBM? Anong binayad ng DOH? At ultimately, anong ibinayad ng sambayan ng Pilipino sa pamamagitan ng ating mga buwis? Ano, influence peddling lang? Palakasan lang kung sino lang ang malapit sa matataas? Oh my God, hindi yan tamang business practice kahit pre-pandemic at lalo na pandemic at lalo na government agency ang nagpo-procure. That is totally unacceptable.
Yeah. Now, Senator Risa, a Filipino company, admitted in the Senate that they had lost 500 million pesos.
Imagine.
Closing a deal with a PSDBM, because then the PSDBM, even if they had won the bid at 13 pesos per mask, they were buying it at something like 2 pesos, correct?
Yes, the 75% of the stock, binagsak nila to 275 kasi ayaw nang tanggapin ng PSDBM ang deliveries nila.
And Christopher Lau said in the Senate that the reason they had to go with Pharmaly is because the Filipino company could not deliver on time.
Hindi yan totoo, Karen. At pinasinungalingan na ng EMS corporation na iyon, yung magkapatid na Ferrer, and they are part of CONWEP and the CPMP or Confederation of Philippine Manufacturers of PPEs na nakaraang taon pa had that demonstrated and offered capacity to deliver. And in fact, na-produce na ng EMS yung kanilang, if I remember correctly, 100 million pieces of masks na deliver na nila yung 25% of that at the agreed upon price to PSDBM. Pero pagkatapos nun, biglang sinasarahan sila ng pinto kesyo daw walang inventory space ang PSDBM at iba pa. And it's just adding insult to injury para kay dating Yusek Lau na sabihin na kaya na sila hindi tumanggap kay EMS ay dahil hindi makaka-deliver ang EMS. My God, EMS eventually delivered the balance of the 75% of their contracted supply, they still delivered it to PSDBM. Nagpalugi na lang sila at 275 para lang tumupad sa their end of the bargain. They were saying, for us, hindi lang kontrata to, duty namin ito, tungkulin. How come PSDBM couldn't have that same spirit?
Now, do you believe that Christopher Lau was not acting alone? Here is an undersecretary bidding contracts, well, actually negotiated contracts amounting to formally was 9 billion, and then other companies as well moving around with funds of 45 billion pesos from the DOH. Do you believe he was acting alone?
I don't think he was acting alone.
Okay.
Karen, probably acting in concert with other actors na lumitaw na rin sa aming investigasyon. Sabi ni former Yusek Lau, halos hindi siya nagre-report on a daily basis sa kanyang secretary. Parang ganun din ang sinabi ni dating Sec Abisado at ni OIC Yusek I'm forgetting the name. I'm pre-senior momenting right now. But that is also an unacceptable arrangement ng isang PSDBM ay hindi directly accountable sa DBM secretary himself or herself. But Yusek Lau, former Yusek Lau, seems to have been acting in conspiracy with others. There are the DOH leadership, yung Pharmaly officials, a character like Michael Yang, at kung hindi man may direct line si dating Yusek Lau, a line of accountability to his secretary, mukhang there is still a dotted line that has not been erased at pwedeng buuin pa namin to the president in all of this.
Okay, now what about Senator Bongo? Where is Senator Bongo in all this, given he is the chairman of the Health Committee in the Senate? There are netizens asking, why isn't he taking a more active role in terms of investigating possible corruption that has something to do with health?
Well, fair enough, Karen, and ako rin, I welcomed it nung ilang mga hearing or lahat ba ng mga hearing nandun si Sen Bongo. Kung magiging mas active pa sila, I would also welcome it. But so far, yun pa lang yung expectation na sinasabi naming mga kasama niyang senador. We continue to practice the institutional courtesy towards each other. And in any case, Karen, yung cast of characters na nabubuo namin ay medyo solid na rin. Whether or not there are speculations about other possible members of that cast, other characters. Medyo gaya nga ng sinabi din ni Blue Ribbon Committee Chair Sen Dick, medyo solid na yung aming ebidensya, including these characters, at ginagawa lang naming airtight.
But what's ironic in this whole situation is you already have the president earlier on defending Michael Yang, defending the DOH, defending Pharmaly.
Not only is he defending them, he's attacking the Senate. He attacked the COA. So unacceptable din yung ganyang klaseng reaksyon considering si Presidente mismo mula sa day one ay nagsasabing ni whiff ng corruption, di niya titiisin. This is not just a whiff, Karen. Umaalingasaw na ito. And the why is probably what the President himself has often repeatedly said na matagal at malapit niyang kaibigan si Michael Yang. Okay naman itong Pharmaly. Siyempre, ina-uphold niya itong practices ng PSDBM. Pero yung ebidensyang patuloy naming ina-unearth, Karen, sa Blue Ribbon investigation ay hindi tama ang prosesong isinagawa. And the President, bilang pinakamataas na opisyal, should be the first to take note of that, to give weight to that. At i-call niya yung attention hindi ng COA, hindi ng Senado, pero itong mga grupo at taong ito. The fact that he is not doing so at galit pa sila, talagang magdududa ka na kung bakit.
So with the President's behavior, Senator Ontiveros, are you seeing a connection already in terms of why an undersecretary of the DBM would have such brazenness to close these contracts because the President knew about them or he believed he would be protected?
speaking of protection, tingin talaga ni Presidente protected sila. And indeed, immune from suit sila habang nakaupo bilang Presidente. Pero alam naman natin na in the end, may accountability ang bawat isa sa atin, lalo na kaming nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno. And yung kasabihang the lady doth protest too much. Kahit ulit-ulitin pa ni Presidente yung ganitong mga pagdedepensa, kahit manatili silang galit, in the end, the evidence will stand. At nakatayo na yung ebidensya, Karen eh. At sa huli, kahit ganun pa rin ang ugali ni Presidente, it would seem na ang lalabas na kwento ay may kasamang yung kanilang dating presidential advisor on economic affairs ay mayroong nabuong isang napakahusay na arrangement between a DOH leadership, a PSDBM leadership, itong mga favored na kumpanya tulad ng Pharmaly, para ganchohan, iswindle. Hindi lang ang gobyerno, iswindle ang mamamayang Pilipino.
Oo. What is the accountability of the Department of Health after Magos revelation that they were changing expiry dates? They had swindled the government. What is DOH's accountability in these contracts? Did Secretary Duque sign contracts with Pharmaly?
I don't think the Secretary directly signed contracts with Pharmaly, Karen, so far sa nakikita namin. Pero yung isang original sin sa kwentong ito ay bakit pumayag, bakit inauthorize ni Sec Duque yung paglipat ng 42 billion pesos to PSDBM na wala man lang memorandum of agreement o ibang dokumento na hanggang ngayon naninindigan ng Commission on Audit. Kailangan ng MOA para maglipat ng pera, lalo na ganyang kalaki. And it appears that 42B conveniently ay dun nagdip ng fingers ang PSDBM and eventually ang Pharmaly para makuha yung supplies na yon mula sa suppliers na ipinakilala ni Michael Yang, i-deliver di umano sa PSDBM para sa DOH, pero kasama yung ganitong yun na nga, pineking production date na certificates at substandard pa.
Okay, now the Rappler obtained documents, actually bid documents, showing that in June 2021, the DOH once again awarded a new face shield contract to Pharmaly worth roughly 38 million pesos, right? So Pharmaly then, once again, did a joint venture with another company.
Yes.
So Pharmaly has been getting face shields from smaller companies, but they're like the connected company with the DBM, it seems, with another young company, Business Beyond Limits. So this Business Beyond Limits, once again, is a new company wherein it has a sole incorporator with a 10 million peso capital. But recently, the president announced face shields are no longer necessary.
Siguro
Outdoors.
kasi may kumita na, Karen.
How do you see this as a coincidence? This announcement that the face shields are no longer a requirement outdoors. And what do you do with this new contract? What will we be doing with all these face shields worth 38 million when it's no longer a requirement?
Well, it's no longer a requirement in public. It never should have been kasi mula sa simula, sinasabi ng health authorities, we need face shields in closed, usually air-conditioned, high viral load settings like hospitals. Kaya talaga yung ating mga healthcare workers, they need not expiring but current and top standard face shields. At kapag pumapasok tayo sa ganyang mga enclosed aircon spaces, many of us also feel safer using them. Pero publicly, mula sa simula, tayo lang naman ang bansa sa buong mundo na gumamit niyan. So ngayon, what to do with that inventory? Indeed, ka-joint venture ng Pharmaly, yung BBLOPC, with that single president director, we will also invite her, summon her to the next hearing. Ito yung Director President Sofia Mercedes Custodio. And by the way, Karen, yung BBL OPC na yan, nasa parehong building sa Taguig, katulad ng Pharmally. So, well, it will be their problem kung hindi pa sila nakadeliver. But, I've called for government, tigilin ng makipag-transact sa Pharmally o kahit sinong ka-joint venture nila dahil nagpakita sila pa ulit-ulit ng bad faith. Hindi lang bad faith sa gobyerno, bad faith sa mamamayang Pilipino.
Now, clearly, the bigger question is, does Pharmally have more contracts other than face shields, face masks, for example, other medical supplies? Because the pandemic will be going on for at least another year.
That is true, Karen.
Is Pharmally still, actually, hasn't it been written off already?
Dapat,
the
di ba?
status of Pharmally, Senator?
You're right eh. Why hasn't it been written off? Dapat na blacklist na yan. And to add another product, sinabi ni Sen Kiko that Pharmally had also been supplying government with expiring RT-PCR test kits to the point na inamin ng DOH, may napanis na lang at nasayang na hundreds of millions of pesos worth of test kits sa panahon, Karen, na kulang ang testing natin.
But see, like those expiring test kits, what is the accountability of Secretary Duque and all this, given this is a chain of command issue? He is the leader of the DOH.
Exactly.
Right? He is the general in this pandemic.
Yep. And tulad nung may sinasabing sa desk ng presidente, merong dapat na the buck stops here. Sa usaping health, ganun din ang prinsipyo kay Sec Duque. The buck stops with him. The buck started with him, kumbaga nung inauthorize niyang ilabas yung 42 billion bucks. Pero ngayon, na bumabalik yung mga produkto na pinepeke, ang production date certificate, substandard, nag-e-expire, overpriced. Meron namang alternative mula sa mga Pilipinong manufacturer na karapat-dapat. Oh my gosh, ang daming bucks, Karen, that stop at the desk of Sec Duque.
Based on the hearing, who do you believe, which characters are already accountable in terms of charges being filed against them?
Well, I expect